Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live video. Let me move a little bit over and make some room for Mitch.
Yes.
There's our friend Mitch Morrison joining us today, this Friday, Pi Day 3.14. That's today.
Not apple pie.
Pizza pie.
Pizza pie.
Well, mathematical pie. But oftentimes,
not the same.
The pizza places take advantage of that and say, hey, here's a sale on pizza. Get a full large pizza for $3.14 on pie. You know, stuff like that.
There you go.
How you been?
Good. Just got back from a week skiing up at my brother's there, Beaver Creek.
Let's move this a little to the left so we can see.
See you. Beaver Creek. They're in Avon, Colorado. That was very nice. Didn't break anything.
Found him that way.
Yeah. So, and only saw one person with a ski patrol taking down the hill in what we call the meat wagon. Kind of a toboggan. I'm like, oh, but the person wasn't screaming. That was a good thing.
Is that because they were unconscious?
That's kind of what I thought.
This is what people do. They spend their money to get away from work to go self-injure themselves.
Yeah.
Skiing's an expensive.
Chad and I don't snowboard because I'm an old
scuba diving. Expensive too.
So one day lift ticket is $225, which is obscene. But I booked a kind of a 4-day pass at the beginning of the season for like, I think it was maybe $475. So that made it at least more affordable at $100 a day.
You know what? Disneyland doesn't seem so bad anymore.
No, I won't pay $225 for 1 day of skiing. That's just obscene. So, not imagine. And then when you ski kind of mid mountain, they got a lodge there with food and having that $20 hot dog or that $11 fountain drink. A little pricey. Well, we got to get it up there on the hill. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying it. You're taking advantage of us peeps.
I'm not a skier. I've seen ski equipment. They have these stores that sell it. It's very expensive. And I was visiting Alpine and went in their little shopping area. Ooh, boy, did I feel poor. There's some money.
Yeah.
But beautiful. Just a beautiful area. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
For boots and poles.
It's like Rodeo Drive of Colorado.
Yeah. But I'm kind of getting old and grumpy, Carrie, because it's as much as I love skiing on the hill, it's inconvenient to get there. You park in the parking lot.
There it comes.
You put on your boots. You got to throw your ski boots. You got to throw your skis over your shoulder and your poles. You got to clomp to the bus. Then you got to ride the bus. You get off the bus and you got to clomp to the base where the ski lift is. And I'm like, I think I'll just hire someone to ski for me.
Yeah.
How's that?
Probably be cheap.
Yeah, and then I'll just stay down there and
just have them tell people.
Yeah, I'll stay down there at the bar, and the guy will come. How did I do today? Pretty good.
It's amazing how the attitude changes of what used to be fun.
Right.
That seems more like work.
Yeah.
The older we get, say, I don't have the energy for this. This doesn't sound like so much fun. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
The effort. Yeah, I think.
Boy, and when I was a kid, 20 years ago, the lifts open.
20 years ago.
The lifts. Yeah.
Well, hold on a minute.
Better make it 40 years ago. Yeah. The lifts open at 8:30 a.m. and then close at 3:30. And I used to be right there, right at 8:30, and would take a break for lunch. But then what we would do is we would ride up at like 3:20, and we'd stay at the top of the hill and let everyone go down, and then we would see the ski patrol riding the chairlift going, "What are you coconuts doing? Get down that mountain." And we're like, we're just waiting for everyone to go down so we can shush down.
Just speed run it.
Yeah, they would never catch us because we're like, ski patrol isn't as good as us. So we're like, yeah, try to catch us. So, but those days are long gone. How's everybody doing in chat on this Freaky Friday with rain in Phoenix? I like it because it rinses the smog out of the air. So
enjoy that for the day that it lasts.
Yeah, and clouds all summer long. It's just blue sky, no clouds. Blue sky, no clouds. It's kind of Groundhog's Day, but to look up and see beautiful clouds is nice.
Let's say hello to everybody joining us here. We've got Darren Gilholm saying hello, and C7T, I don't know, a name I can't pronounce, says hello. Katrina joined us along with Dazzle555 and Eddie Casanova. El Finesca says hello from beautiful Tahoe. Rick Lake's joining us there from Minnesota. Nick Poverman Said he's not making the stream today, but he wanted to say happy birthday to you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And Nick's got some family issues to take care of today. So yeah, you'll be all right.
For an old man, okay.
You can come back and watch us at your convenience. I understand some things are more important than PCs, which we'll get to what we're going to do here today and why. I'm not sure there is a reason why,
right?
But we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah,
it's a secret, at least to me. Marsman50 says hello from Wisconsin. We're at 62 degrees, and might be going to his Friday night fish fry tonight. He might be leaving us early. I like having a fish fry, but not on Friday because that's when it's busy. So if everybody's doing something, I'm doing the other thing.
So you really like scrod?
Yes.
Carp, sucker.
Yeah.
Very tasty.
You know, the first time I saw that word scrod was at a restaurant in Michigan.
Okay.
And I thought, well, is it cod?
Right.
And there seems to be multiple definitions for what scrod is.
Right.
Small cod remaining on deck could be scrod.
Okay.
And I don't know that there's any universal definition other than in your area what it means to you. But when I've eaten scrod, as far as I can tell, it's cod. It's not halibut. It's not tilapia. It's cod has a flakiness and a flavor to it that I can eat other fish, but they're fishier. Cod has a less fishy taste. And so far as I know, scrod is still cod, but again, it could be different.
And then in Michigan, you would winter fish for smelt, right? That was are the smelt running?
Not in my family.
And I'm like, what's a smelt?
Yeah, it doesn't sound good, does it?
No, I'm like.
But again, in areas of the country, like in the Bay Area, California, sand dabs are a thing.
Yeah.
What the heck's a sand dab? But these are really thin fish, which to me, if I'm going to have a piece of fish, I'd like it to be at least an inch thick. So things like tilapia is not only really fishy, but it's often served very thin. But that's just a texture thing with me. But yeah, scrod, I've never seen it for sale out here in Arizona. But when I go back to Michigan, many of the sports bars.
And the only fish I'll eat is orange roughy because it's very mild.
Orange roughy's pretty good.
Very flavorful. So my dad's like, that's the only one. No trout on it.
Oh, trout's way too fishy.
Yeah.
But
we got off topic on Fish Friday.
We really went on a little fishing excursion. Caught nothing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Marsman50 saying, waiting to hear from a cousin. He says he wants a mini Sforum NAB 9 with an Amazon basic 27-inch monitor and speakers. I like the NAB 9. The NAB 9 and the NAD 9. I think the NAD 9 is the bigger one I really like. But the NAB 9 is nothing to shake a stick at. It's a pretty decently powerful machine. And I've been very happy with the quality of the mini Swarm. You know what I've got to do, and I'm working on it, folks. It's a slow burn. Is the next time Mitch wants a computer, get his hands on one of these mini PCs, because of the computers he's got mostly towers and a mid tower and a mini ITX. No mini PCs. And you know, he doesn't live in a big place. It's not like a mansion. And I would think that that could really benefit him to have it plugged in, say, to a TV instead of a monitor and be able to stream his shows since he's a big movie buff. But I just don't think he's ready for it yet. On the other hand, I do think that time's coming soon. And then we'll be able to hear back from somebody we know and are familiar with and what their thoughts are living with it day to day compared to being accustomed to the desktops. And I'll say, my prediction is he will realize he doesn't need these anymore. And I could be completely wrong, but that's what I'm predicting. I think so many people who've never had a mini PC think of them as lesser than a desktop. And they think of the reasons why they like their desktop for reasons that, well, I can upgrade the storage or I can upgrade the RAM, right? Well, you can upgrade the storage and RAM in a mini PC. Well, I could add a Wi-Fi. You can do that on a mini PC. Well, mini PCs all have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth automatically anyway, but nonetheless, all the reasoning for the most part outside of gaming, you're not gaming.
No.
Outside of gaming, I can change a video card. And in many cases on mini PCs with such as OcuLink or USB 4, You can put an external GPU on it. So all of those limitations have been removed, and quite often you get a lot more for your money on a mini PC. And the reasons you would want to be able to open and upgrade things are going away because you're getting so much more now. It'd be like saying, I want to go to this restaurant and get the buffet. And you say, Carrie, if you just order a regular meal, they serve you like 8 plates of food. It's cheaper, you get more for your money, and you're never going to eat those 8 plates to justify the extra to go back to the buffet. They're going to give you so much on your plate. The whole concept of the buffet doesn't play out at this restaurant. It used to, not anymore. Well, that's kind of the same thing. Where before you were considering upgrading things, the normal default standards now are so high up, and software really hasn't kept up outside of gaming to demand that kind of use, or in video editing, photo editing, very specialty things that most people don't do. And even then, mini PCs do an impressive job. But obviously, when you have an external graphics card or a discrete graphics card, and you have a discrete graphics heavy application, then you still might want a tower. But that's so small. I think it's just people think of it as less than because it's smaller. I've dealt with that my whole life.
Yes, well, and the fact that I can either mount it behind the monitor or it sits very nice, just right here on your desk, not taking up a lot of real estate. So I'm leaning towards it. So
I'm going to just continue saying
Okay.
hello to everybody here.
Yes.
Jonathan joins us. 3D Everything says hello. There's Luke Greenia, our friend Luke, joining us from Vermont. I see Raj D saying hello. And Gary Bickle, Scott. Our friend Mark Gaines in Northern Ireland joins us. Good to see Mark as always. I am standing against something that's squeaking. Sorry, it was really bothering me.
that metal knee of yours. Okay.
It's my metal head.
Yeah.
Of course, Mara's hanging out in our chat room
Yeah.
with everybody. Bill Sony T says hello. Thomas Mac T and Phil Stodd joining us. There's Buster with a 10-pound super chat. Buster says hello, Carrie and Mara and Mitch and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh is 38 degrees Fahrenheit or 2.2 degrees.
That's a bit
Celsius.
brisk. I wonder if Peter saw the eclipse last night. I did. Although I was 2 beers in when I staggered out of the bar and looked up. I'm like, ooh, nice. I saw double. Well, does that count? No. two moons.
I feel like we're getting eclipses of either the moon or the blood moon. It feels like that just happened. And the news media make it out like, we haven't had this in 73 years. We this much time. And it feels like, wasn't this just a couple weeks ago? Well, that was a different kind of a blood moon. This kind of blood moon it's all kind of the same to me. So the first time I saw it, I was like, okay.
No.
The second time, I don't know. It's the same. And then sometimes it's cloudy out and you can't see the moon. So is that an eclipse? I guess not, but it has the same effect. It's gone. All right, Felipe Suarez says hello, and also, again, thank you to our friend Peter Laycock. Buster, 3D Everything just renewed his membership. He's now a member 34 months. He says time goes fast. You think time's going fast for those astronauts stuck on the space station? 9 months.
Yeah, not really.
Stuck in a small space.
What was supposed to be 8 days.
Can't go outside for fresh air. Well, I guess SpaceX is launching right about the time we're ending the broadcast. Yep. There should be the launch of the rocket of bringing the new replacement crew up. And after a couple days, the previous crew, which includes Butch and Sonny, they get in the capsule and come back.
Getting them down. Jeez.
I mean, I think they're enjoying being in space. They're astronauts after all. And of course, they're always prepared to stay up there as needed. But that's the backup plan, right? Yeah. That's not the original plan. And they keep them busy with science experiments and things, so it's not like they're bored. But I'm sure they miss their family, and I'm sure adjusting to gravity after being up in space.
Eating that lousy freeze-dried food and Tang. Do they make Tang?
They're eating some pretty nice stuff up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's come a long way since the astronaut ice cream.
Yeah.
Which I don't even ever think they ate in space, by the way.
And orange Tang, yeah.
And orange Tang. Yeah, I think they got Red Bull up there now.
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
sure.
yeah.
Ron Bercura says hello. There's Patrick T. Kevin Lanthier says hello. And Zach Bischoff joins us. Paul Connolly's joining us there from Ireland. Ireland? Or is it Australia? Or is it New Zealand?
Mm.
Well, he's here on Earth.
Yes.
Pretty sure we don't have any astronauts joining us today, but if they're in there, they're welcome. We can keep them distracted while the taxi arrives. That is an Uber if I've ever seen one. Brad Ravel says hello. Steve G says hello. John Williams, Romix R, and Barry Klein saying hello. Ben Laird joins us from Scotland. Daryl Loftus says hello. Rick Saunders and Ed E says hello. Happy Friday.
Well, Ben, I'm telling you, I'm tired of going to visiting countries where they don't speak English. So, yeah, I'm really leaning my next trip towards Ireland and Scotland.
That's the most American thing you've ever said.
Ireland and Scotland. If it wasn't for Google Translate, when I went to South America for 5 weeks, after the first week, I'd have come home.
What were you expecting?
I don't know. Habla inglés? No. Habla inglés? No. No.
Don't you get that here in Phoenix?
So
do you ever leave the house?
You know, so you just feel helpless when you don't speak the language.
I'm going to go to France. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
Speak English.
Yeah.
See what kind of service I get.
Yes.
I think you will find when you go to, not that I've been, but I watch a lot of British TV. They're speaking English, but they're using words you've never heard before.
Yeah.
Or they have expressions where you're hearing the words correctly, but it doesn't make any sense. So you think, I must not be hearing the words correctly. There was a video of somebody traveling in Scotland, and they were talking to people about their accent and about this. And everybody in Scotland seems super nice. It almost seems like the harsher the environment is you have to live in,
yeah.
Especially like you go northern Michigan, places where you really have to be hardy. Wisconsin, these people are generally very, very nice to each other and very, the mindset from what I've seen on, YouTube videos where someone's making a live broadcast or whatever, they're talking to people. It makes me want to go. They seem so friendly. Now, half of what they say I don't understand. But this guy, says, well, what do you mean? He's a lump of wood. He's a what? You have to slow it down. He's a lump of wood.
Okay.
Meaning he's an idiot, right? Well, that's not an expression I've ever heard before. So putting those words that I understand in that order, I don't understand the context of it. And I assumed when I first heard it, I couldn't make any words out. What is that? Because when you add the Scottish or the Irish, in this case it was Scottish, or certain British accents with the slang, quit your whinging and put you back in the pram, change your nappy. What does any of that mean? Stop your whining, go back in your crib, not your crib, your stroller.
Trailer or stroller, yeah.
Well, I guess a stroller is technically, stroller's still a stroller, and a pram is like one of those beds that has wheels on it. I don't know. Back in the day, that's when you took your baby outside, you have a little umbrella cut. Anyway, the word pram, the word nappy, the word, whinging, I guess we'd still use. But what did that guy just say, right? So I think you're still going to be using your Google Translator.
Yeah, yeah. And I've got a nephew, Chat.
And technically, they're speaking English, you're not.
Right.
You're speaking American.
Right. And I've got a nephew who's going to grad school, film school, actually, over in London. So I could crash on his floor for a few days, so nothing like free sleeps in London. So he's like, come on over, Uncle Mitch. I'm like, don't tempt me. Just that long plane ride.
Oh, talk about fish and chips.
Yeah. Yeah.
Darren Gilholm says hello. Mick Woods joins us along with Mecca Cameron. And who else do we see in here? Chris Dunn says hello. Alan Lindos with a $17.77 super chat. Thank you, Alan. Alan joins us from Casa Grande.
Oh.
And let's see. Hallie says, Hello. Richard DeFries joins us. Okay. I might have missed some people. My apologies if I did. Mick Woods with a £9.99 contribution says, hi, Carrie and Mitch from London in the UK. Good to see the dynamic duo back together again. Let me go put on my tights and get my cape.
You play Robin. I play Bat.
I think it's a size thing. I don't think I have a choice.
I'm Batman. Yeah.
Just trying to get myself caught up over here. What are we doing?
Well, we're doing Uncle Mitch's birthday build, and this happens to be computer number 5. And like Carrie said yesterday, why the man wants 5 machines? And I put in chat, 1 in every room, and he's like, even the bathrooms.
Well, he's got 2 in one room.
Right. 1
on each side of the desk. You go into another room, he's got another one. You go into another room, he's got another.
Right.
I don't think he's got any more rooms.
Yeah.
You're putting them in the closet at this point. Or,
right.
These aren't like machines that he's putting up on a shelf and aren't using.
Right.
These are hooked up, and maybe he doesn't use them every day. He's got one main.
Yeah, your daily driver.
Yeah. That's his go-to. That's the one we already upgraded, or no?
Yeah, and we originally built it back in I think it was 2019.
Is that the Stormtrooper case?
No, that's my second one. The black desktop, the 450D. We built in 2019. Then a couple of years later, you're like, bring it in, and we'll kind of upgrade it. And so it's about 6 years old. So like you said, I mean, 8-year build. It's running great, but I'm like, might be time for number 5. Great to be alive.
So Mitch never says a word to me that he's in the market, that he's looking or even considering a 5th computer. Right. We had been previously talking about taking one of his current 4 and upgrading them live on camera. And then one day he calls me and says, oh, I got this case and power supply.
I'm like, well, why?
First of all, I don't mind.
Right.
I just never saw this coming. That's replacing something? No.
That's because, Chad, I have my beautiful Corsair 450D dialed in just perfect. And if I upgrade it, I don't want anything to happen. So I'm like, I will make this the daily driver, and then on the left side of the desk, and then my other one here, and then I can easily transfer files and and then
this is the first I'm hearing of
yeah,
this.
and then this bad boy then will be my daily driver. So no RGB, and yeah, I still can't believe this is a mid tower. So
yeah, well, it's not a full size tower. No, I don't mind. Any excuse to build a computer, I'm on board with. I just never expected it. Yeah. So I said, okay, so what are we getting? He wanted a 4 terabyte NVMe drive, and asked, what's the least expensive good one that's out there? And I recommended the Orico, since we recently reviewed them. I'm not aware of a drive this fast. Losing my voice. I'm not aware of a drive of that capacity and that speed any cheaper than that. It's 5-year warranty, and in our testing, it holds up pretty much identical. There's been some debate over trying to copy, let's say, 2 terabytes over to it all at once, that it slows down. I've not tested that, because that doesn't seem like how often would somebody need to do that, and where would the source files be coming from? So I think under normal use case scenarios, including copying bulk large files, that's ridiculous, 2 terabytes. But if you were to do that, I mean, a lot of drives might slow down, right? And if you're doing that once or twice in a year, are you willing to pay that much more so that once or twice a year can go a little bit faster? Now, I've not verified this, but I'm assuming that's true, because the drive does cost less. And I would expect a more expensive drive can endure that kind of just pounding data onto it like that without the same kind of effects. What do you expect, right? I mean, first of all, it may not even exhibit that symptom, but second of all, who's doing that? Under what normal daily routine are you getting that much data? Where's that data coming from? You've got to get it from somewhere. Even if you're creating videos like we are, I wouldn't have 2 terabytes of videos for probably a month. So In any event, I think Mitch will be very, very happy with it. Much more happy than he would be paying an extra $100 for a Samsung branded drive of the same capacity and speed. But that's just my opinion.
Well, and the fact that you know, on your show, you did test one of these.
Oh, they're fast.
And I'm like, I wouldn't have done this without you seeing your show about you testing one of these and giving it the Gary thumbs up.
I mean, the key is the price. So you remember what you paid for this? It's a little over $200,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
For 4 terabytes of Gen 4 NVMe that runs at 7,000 megabytes per second.
Fast.
And so the question is, well, what about the endurance on a very heavy copy all at the same time? If you are that kind of a user, I'm a race car driver and I want to buy the fastest car on the market. So what's Hyundai got here? You're looking at the wrong cars, right? So you've got to accommodate what you're expecting with what you're paying. And even I don't copy 2 terabytes. If I were to do that, it's because I'm replacing a drive and I'm cloning everything off of one onto another. And it's a one-time deal for that computer. It's not ever it won't happen again anytime soon. So what do I care if it takes 20 minutes or it takes 2 hours? I'm walking away doing something else. I'm not staring at it. So in any event, you got to pick the right product for the person. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best drive on the market. It's the best drive on the market for people looking to spend the least, get the best performance and the best capacity for the price. But if you have a higher priority of performance than you do price, then the best drive for you would be something else. As I mentioned, Western Digital's getting out of the SSD market. Western Digital bought SanDisk. So what they've decided to do is anything with the Western Digital name on it will be mechanical drives, and anything with the SanDisk name will be solid state drives. So technically Western Digital's still selling the same drives with different labeling on them. It'll be SanDisk from now on. So just be prepared to see that change. And if you're seeing a lot of Western Digital SSDs on sale, it's probably because they're trying to blow that inventory out to get the new branded inventory in place. So in any event, it's an interesting market strategy that Western Digital is doing, and be interesting how Seagate responds. In the meantime, we've got that 4 terabyte drive. You brought a cooler, CPU cooler, which is the Mugen 6.
Black, yep.
The dual fan black one, okay. We've got some Noctua fan extensions.
I thought I'd bring them because sometimes where Carrie's like, I'm just a smidge short. I'm like, then you just don't.
Yeah, but what about the cables?
Oh,
it was a joke. I'm a smidge short.
Okay.
These time-lapse jokes, they're time-release jokes, can take a little while sometimes. Anyway, all right, we might or might not need those because, okay, I see you've put a power supply in here. So tell me what you've done to this case. What is this case?
This is that's a very good question. What is this?
He doesn't know what he bought.
A Corsair Airflow 4000.
Okay.
And it comes with one fan for the front and one for the rear. So what I did was I took the rear fan, moved it to the front. So now I have 2 stock fans. And then I bought a nice Noctua for the rear. So I got plenty of air.
That's what these cables.
Yeah, plenty of airflow. I don't know. The last, this is, the Airflow 4000. When I looked, they were out of stock. This is, Mara has it in the show notes. This is an EVGA.
Your power supply.
750 watt.
Non-modular, 750.
Fully modular.
Oh, you just got all the cables plugged in?
I just plugged in all of them, and then, like you said, we could take the ones off. But
well, you've got a power supply shroud. You could just hide them. So then you don't have to worry about losing the cables.
So I'm like,
wondering which one of the 5 PCs these cables go to.
So just plug them in. Yeah, if it didn't have the shroud, and we've got the glass here, which will face the wall.
So you're not even going to see this
on the left side of my desk. So I'm like,
I gotcha.
Yeah, I got your nice magnetic fan.
Your filter
here on the bottom. Nice. And so, and per carry, I agree with them about flat because I'll put papers. I won't leave them there all the time, but it's just I like in a pinch. maybe a hard
Setting
drive or
something
something
down,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, to be able to set versus curved or whatever. So it's a big boy, but
So I can tell you, based on what we're building here today, Mitch did not need any fans in the front of this. If you're going to put a graphics card in, or if you're putting in a processor that gets really, really hot, you know, like a high-end i9 or Ryzen 9 processor, usually we're using a liquid cooler, and again, these fans really don't do anything. However, they won't hurt, except they add noise and they bring in more dust.
I'm half deaf anyway, so it
What?
doesn't matter. Yeah. My tinnitus or tinnitus is pronounced tinnitus. All right.
Diabetes.
Yes. Yeah.
So the motherboard we're going to use is a board I prepped here probably at Studio B a few months ago.
Okay.
And we decided to go with this board for Mitch because of what I have laying around here. This one would be, I think, fitting what he's going after the best. So what we've got, this board has no Wi-Fi on it, but you can easily add Wi-Fi to it. It's a 13500. It's a Core i5, which I feel is the best valued bang for the buck processor. The 14500 we have one of those chips as well, but it's on a different board, and that board does not have the built-in I/O shield, and we don't know if it's gigabit Ethernet or 2.5 gig. We do know on this one it's 2.5, and Mitch recently upgraded
The Cox.
the switch, the router,
Yep. To the Cox.
all to 2.5
5.
gig, and then he got the faster 2.5 gig network,
A PCIe card.
multi-gig internet from Cox Communications. So even though his NAS is still just 1 gig, that may be something in the future where he can, you know, go 1.5 times faster when moving files back and forth off the NAS. He talked about maybe wanting to add a second NVMe drive for Acronis backups, and I suggested put the Acronis backups on an external drive or on the NAS. And the reason for that is, and this is a repeat for Mitch, but for everybody out there, if you're putting your backup on the drive you're trying to protect, and something on the computer you're trying to protect, and something happens to that computer, it happens to the backup in a lot of cases. Power supply dies, computer gets stolen, virus infected. That's not a proper backup. Furthermore, if you did this with 5 computers, you'd need 5 different drives. Let's call them D drives, each for a backup for each computer, whereas one external D drive, you could put all 5 backups and then some using Acronis or even other utilities to image that drive onto the external drive, unplug the external drive. You can move it around from computer to computer. If the computer gets virus infected or a power spike or gets stolen, as long as you keep the backup away from it, worst case scenario, you still have your data, and you've got, in the case of Acronis, a full image. You just restore back, you're back in business again. So we've got 64 gigs of RAM, non-RGB, that's DDR4 already installed. I've removed the NVMe drive that was in here so we can use Mitch's drive, and we've taken the stock Intel cooler off. Although it was more than adequate, Mitch just wanted something a little nicer. And you know, the Mugen, for what it costs, it's very easy to install, it's very quiet. And even though this chip will run cooler with that, it won't run better. But it's a personal preference and not a requirement. So anybody out there that is wanting to build something similar, please know that the included CPU fan that comes with an 13500 or 14500 or a 12500 is adequate. In fact, it's more than adequate to keep that chip cool. The only time you need to buy your own cooler is if you're buying a K processor. They don't come with coolers. Or if you're looking for a certain aesthetic. And again, he's facing this towards the wall. He won't be able to see into it anyway. Or if you just, and I think in Mitch's case, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's about the impression of quality. He doesn't want the free cooler that comes with the CPU. He wants something a little higher end, a little more upscale. And it's not that much money. It's not like he's got to close escrow on it. And it's not a liquid cooler, because that would be over the top for a 13500. But at the same time, that would be for the reasoning more of looks, because he wants the RGB. But as we mentioned, no RGB on here, and it wouldn't matter if it had it, because it's the glass is going to face the wall. So he wouldn't be able to appreciate it. So I think that's what brings us to where we are today. Now with the motherboard already being prepped and you've got the power supply already installed, this should be a fairly routine build. I guess we'll start by putting the Orico drive in, and then we'll put the cooler on.
And you're sure this will fit? I mean, I bought you.
Oh yeah, easy. Sometimes with these big heat sinks with the dual fans, they overlap.
But this is wide enough that I would think it was going to fit.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what you. So when you talk about if a cooler fits, my interpretation of what he just asked is, will it fit on the motherboard?
Right.
And he was what he meant was, will it fit in the case? Is the case deep enough? Which I didn't get that when he asked it.
Yeah.
But in both situations, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
It'll fit just fine in there. It'll fit just fine on here. Sometimes with the big heat sinks, like the big Noctua DH15, NH15, they overlap the RAM, so you can't see any RGB on the RAM. This one doesn't overlap the RAM, but it's a non-issue since we're not using RGB RAM. It wouldn't matter either way. But it can matter if you need to upgrade or change the RAM and your heatsink's sitting on top, and it's one more step to have to get at the RAM because you got this big overkill heatsink. That's where liquid cooling can help when you're trying to do so much. Right, I want to fill all my RAM slots. I want the fastest processor. I want all this RGB, and then you're really spending. So this is a much more financially sound decision in the sense that the way Mitch uses his computer, the computer is far more powerful than what he's using currently. And if his needs change, then of course it's adaptable then. But this should be pretty much the fastest computer in the house. I think the one we upgraded was to 13500, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. So if it's not the fastest, it'll be at the same speed as the previous one, which you haven't had any complaints about.
No.
If you have, I haven't heard them.
So if this is an 8-year build, then in theory, this machine will outlive me? No?
That's right. You just had a birthday.
Yeah.
You don't think you've got 8 more birthdays in you? Let's check that pulse.
Yeah. Yet my father lived.
Has anybody told you died?
And my father almost lived to 97, so there's longevity. 96 and a half, so there's longevity in my family. So
it's a long time.
That's a long time.
96.
Yeah. Born in 27.
How many people in the 90s do we have in our chat room today? Morton joins us. He renews membership. Now a member, 34 months, says hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Morton. Just catching up with the chat room here. John Paul Bacon says happy birthday, Mitch.
Of course, I look a lot better than my twin sister.
Mark Gaines said, I guess they were talking about the word nick. So in England, they'd say he nicked it, meaning he stole it.
Yeah.
When I say I nicked it, I mean I gouged into the plastic or the glass and left a mark. And he says, you got nicked, which would mean you got arrested. That's 3 different ways of using the same. Good luck with that, by the way. I'm going to get you a t-shirt. Talk slowly, I'm American.
And then the drummer for Toto that was with the band for 24 years, Simon Phillips, I overheard him at a meet and greet where he's talking to some guy and he's like, well, then you can just nip on over to London. And then you realize in America, we say you can go on over. And he just, well, yeah, it'd be easy to just nip on over. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's a little British, but...
the one I heard was that somebody was sort of diving in to their meal. And they'll say he's tucking in.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's tucking in. Yeah. And usually we tuck somebody into bed.
Right.
They tuck into their food.
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah, and I'm sure you'll come back when you go with a lot of funny misunderstandings.
Yep.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Ian Gooch joins us with a 10-pound super chat. Did I mention that one already? He says, hi, Carrie, and welcome back, Mitch, from your travels. Ian joins us from London. If the name Ian didn't give it away, or Nigel, Colin. It's like when I went to the Cronus show they had there in Miami a few years back, and they hire people from all over the world, and there were some folks there from Russia. And there was this big, young, strapping, tall, muscular, with the strong Russian accent, nicest guy, sweetest guy, but the most intimidating.
Right.
And I was getting introduced to him, and he goes, my name is Ivan. And I'm like, yeah, of course your name is Ivan. Of course it is.
Then he crushed your hand. Quite a grip there.
No, I was like, you know, you can get ahead of me in line if you want. I'm not going to fight you. You know, you can take cuts. I'm good with it. Lana Joe said it is snowy in Utah. Mark Leibowitz joins us. You know, Mark has a computer repair shop in the Chicago area. Always good to see fellow techs on the show.
Got a younger sister who lives in Winnetka. He would know where that is.
Never heard of it.
She's always come. It's where the Home Alone house is.
Oh.
She lives about 2 blocks from it. So.
Chris Dunn with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Chris. All right, should we get to work?
Yeah.
All right. How much of this are you doing?
Put up the NVMe, that, and as you can see here, this has been hermetically sealed, unopened,
shrink wrapped in a factory in Asia. Is that what you mean?
So, shoot me that blade.
Can I trust you with sharp objects? Wait, where's my band-aids?
Yeah,
I should have got that first. Oh, he's cut away from me.
Yeah, cut away. Is it this way? Yeah, I think. No.
Just set that right over there. Wow, that was weak.
Hey, look at that. It even comes with its own screwdriver.
You don't want to use that screwdriver.
No, but I mean,
terrible. But don't show me, show them. Here, let me, maybe we can try that close-up camera and see how, I had to guesstimate where it needed to be.
See how much Coca?
Hey.
Coca-Cola, folks. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Turn it the other.
Comes with a screwdriver. Yeah. Avoid the glare.
Now, it does come with a heatsink. We're going to use the motherboard
Avoid the
heatsink.
glare, screwdriver right there.
If we wanted to put that in one of the other M.2 slots on this board that don't have heatsinks, then we'd use this heatsink, this one.
Yeah.
But because we're using the heatsink already on the board, this works better, it looks better, and it's already got the thermal tape. But this might be something to hold on to for some day.
Yeah.
Especially if you ever in the future want to add a drive here.
Yeah.
And you can buy a drive with a heatsink on it or save some money, buy the drive in the future without the heatsink and add your own.
I opened it the wrong way, but that's okay. There's the screwdriver. And here's what we need.
So I'm not quite sure how well people are going to be able to see, so I'm going to try and move some things around here.
Okay.
Now, for you to work on this, it really needs to face you and not them. And we want to take that heatsink off, and we're going to use this, the GIS Phillips #1, basically, screwdriver here. And then when I let Mitch do it, I don't need my glasses. Well, perfect.
Magnetic.
Ken Musetic said he worked for IBM 50 years fixing computers. That's impressive. He said he's 80 years old. He was born in 1945. You got competition?
Yes, I do. And this chat has thermal tape.
Yeah, we previously had an NVMe when we prepped the board. That's why the film has been removed and there's little marks on that thermal tape. But that just demonstrates you can reuse this over and over. It's not like thermal paste.
Where are my short eyeballs? The Orico 7000 solid state drive. If you can read this, you're too close. All right, now, of course, we all know the notch goes to the notch.
Which NVMe slot are you going to use?
This one. Right. Isn't that where I put the closest to the, whatchamacallit? I don't know. Very technical.
Give him some time. Be patient.
Yeah, it's this one. Yeah.
He's going to realize he's wrong in just a minute. Where did you just remove this heatsink from?
From this one.
Where would the heatsink attach?
Right here.
Where does the screw go in?
Oh,
Where would that go in?
yeah. Was it there?
You see these posts?
Oh, okay.
So that's one way to tell. And again, this is something, you know, I do this myself where I'm just, it's so basic, right? I'm just taking a heatsink off, and then it doesn't occur to me where I just took it off from when I go to put it back.
I wasn't paying
or which direction it was in. Did they have the
contention,
angled corner on the top? Because some of these heat sinks, though, have a certain design or shape to them, where one side's different than the other, and then I'm confused. Like, I didn't pay attention to that detail when I took it off.
So this doesn't come with its own screw because that's
the heat sink's going to hold it in. I'm not a fan of that design because it kind of makes it a pain. I'd much prefer if we could just secure that down first. But make sure that it seats all the way down, because if it doesn't, then you've got it tilted, right? So it's in the socket good, you've installed it well, and then just, I would say, if you align, as long as you don't put any pressure on this, if we're just lining up this hole in the heatsink, with the writing is facing towards us, and we just pick a hole, whether it's this one or that one. This one would probably be easier. Align that. See how it just sunk into the hole right there? There's like a little recess.
Can I redo?
That will charge up the magnetism on the driver. And then once you've lined up the one side, then press down on the other side.
Probably do the other side first?
I would do this side here since it's recessed down. And don't tighten the screw. Just get it started. That way we still have a little wiggle room if needed. And hopefully I've lined it up correctly. Some heat sinks over NVMe drives don't have a recess, and they can be very difficult to line back up. So I appreciate that Asrock did that. Does that find the threads?
I can't take a...
Go ahead, keep going. You'll know if you're in there.
Oh, yes I am.
Yeah.
Check my work. Not too tight, but snug. Snug.
Perfect. I can tell by looking at it. You did a great job. Now, when it comes to putting on the heatsink and the cooler, remember the rest of this stuff, you may choose to throw it away. You may choose to put it in a parts box somewhere. That's your call. Chances are he's never going to use that stuff again. And if he needed it, you could buy them on Amazon for about $3. So they're not very expensive. The included heatsink and screwdriver,
it won't fit.
They're really, really low end.
African.
So again, when you're not paying close attention to how things come apart, it can be very easy to miss how these two pieces are very different. Oh, this is intended.
It came with a little screw. I wasn't paying attention.
But we can't use it.
No, right, yeah. So
most motherboards will already have the M.2 screws, and you want to use the screws that come with the motherboard. But anyway, where the recesses are, this is where things get a little confusing. Sometimes we assume that because there's a recess in this, that the part would sit in this side of the plastic, when usually it's bubbled out in order to hold the part down into the recess in the other piece. So this side has a lip to it, or one of these do. And the way that this should work is, I believe the screwdriver is on the outside of the package, and then this would go likely in this recess over here, along with this, and then this piece here holds the NVMe drive in. But again, most people wouldn't be putting all this back together. You'd just be putting this in the trash. But that's how you can fit it all back in the box. Don't forget your documentation, or we can put it in the motherboard box. There's little details like that. Most channels don't go over this stuff. And I've jokingly said, sometimes getting the parts out of the box is harder than installing the parts. What I haven't covered is when you want to put all the packing material back in the box. If you're not paying close attention, a real super easy secret is turn your camera phone on and put it on a tripod or something so you can film how you're opening it up. Because you might not realize until you go to put it back together, I can't remember how I took it apart. You can replay your own video and it's your own secret. Nobody has to know you did that. And if you do it enough, you won't need to do that anymore. You'll get the gist of it, because they're all kind of the same. Robert Jones says, howdy, Carrie and Mitch. Welcome into Robert Jones. Mark Leibowitz said, "This is my favorite way to build a computer with the client or sometimes with their kids. It's very rewarding. Expensive, though. I try to sell it as an experience." I think it should be offered in schools because there's theory and then there's practice. Practice, for me, take that every day over theory. Give me that experience over the book smarts. All right, you ready to put the heatsink on?
Okay.
Let's move this up.
Yeah.
Let's just get this out of the way.
Good old Mugen. Haven't handled one of these in years. No cracks. All right.
There's no secret there.
Very
Pretty
excited.
obviously.
Very excited.
Can't remember how it works.
This must be the box of tools and goodies.
It is.
We have a nice fan. And here we go. Oh, it's not black. I got the silver one. Uncle Kerry wouldn't like that, but that's okay.
Did we have this discussion?
I don't know. I'm just like, eh.
The picture on the box shows the black one.
Yeah.
Did somebody change the part out on you? Does it say which one it is?
Oh, no. We got the thermal tape, of course, on there. But because it's facing the wall, I don't care. All I care about is performance.
Well, in the dark tinted glass,
yeah,
you're not going to see it anyway. But let's see what the model number says on the side of the box. The dual fan black version is, I think, $5 more.
Yeah.
So were you going cheap on me? Is that what you did?
I suppose, but...
This is the SCMG 6000, which does not tell me which one it is. So the side of the box shows the silver model. Oh, you know what? The front is silver.
Oh,
that's
okay,
silver all day.
With just...
I don't know how you and I saw black on that.
Yeah.
Because the black one, it's very dark and has two fans. This is the single fan. And by the way, if you would have bought the black one, I would have recommended only putting
one fan.
The one fan.
Right.
The fan that goes closest to the rim.
Right.
The fan that goes out the back of the case, you've already got a fan there. And the difference in makes and cooling is negligible. Maybe 3 degrees difference.
So now I have 4 fans in the...
Well, you have a power supply fan.
Yeah, 5 fans. Yeah.
You have the rear fan, the 2 front fans.
And then this fan. Yeah.
And then the CPU cooler fan.
Yes, very noisy. That's okay, I can't hear it anyway. What'd you say? Speak up, Uncle Gary. I can't hear.
He's clearly getting more famous with all these fans. And that's just fantastic. Well, we'll put that box there so people know what we're working on. I'm going to set this fan aside. We don't need that yet.
Okay, and whatever's in the box here.
Yeah, let's take a look. This is going to be our mounting parts, screws, brackets, and a screwdriver. Scythe likes to give you a full-size Phillips screwdriver that is longer than most, and it is required for the proper installation of the cooler. Most people are not going to have a driver with this head on it at this length and this width. Some might. It's very thoughtful. They have included it with the heatsink because once you use this to attach your heatsink, it still works as a screwdriver for projects around the house or future projects on the computer. And if you're building a computer and you don't own any tools, know that if you get the Scythe cooler, it comes with a screwdriver.
So you have 47 of these?
Probably. But do know that if you open your cooler first and get the screwdriver out, you can start your computer build without having to buy necessarily any tools. That may be the only tool you need, depending on what size screw the NVMe drive uses.
Here's a bag of brackets. Here's our thing.
Destructions.
We got a little thermal compound that may be dry, so...
No, Scythe's thermal compound's good. And they give you that little spreading tool, which is like for mini pancakes.
Okay.
These are the brackets. These are going to be brackets for different Intel and AMD socket types. Today we're working with an Intel socket 1700. And if we look here, you'll notice 2 of the brackets, they kind of look like parentheses. That's AMD's mounting kit for used in AMD processors. This is not and never will be an AMD motherboard, so we will never use these unless Mitch decides to take the cooler off and reuse it. But for what these coolers cost, I don't know why you would. Once again, this is something you can throw into the recycle bin, or you may choose to keep it because you never throw anything away. The next set of brackets here have a multiple number of holes, and these are for three different socket types, which lead us from, what are they, 1355, 1356, socket 1200, and socket, I'm missing one. I'm looking on the back of the box trying to cheat. I can't remember. And then these straight mounting brackets that only have a single hole on each end, these are going to be the latest at the time, socket 1700. Now the new Intel Ultra chips, which are considered the 15th gen, those use the exact same mounting brackets as socket 1700, even though it's a socket 1851. You would follow the socket 1700 steps if you were using the Intel Ultra line of core processors, which we're not. All right, so essentially what I'm trying to tell you is these two sets of brackets can go right back in this bag. We will not use them ever.
And then, of course, we have the bag with the 4 wires if you wanted to mount 2 fans.
So the fan, what we call these buckles, fan buckles, and what you do with these, it's nice to give you an extra set. That's if you want to spend more money for an additional fan, which the black Mugen already comes with. Once again, the fan buckles are likely a one-and-done scenario. Adding that second fan, in my opinion, is somebody who just doesn't understand the value of money and just believes that by adding another fan, they're making things better. I think you're making it worse. You're bringing in more dust, you're adding more noise, and you're adding one more point of failure eventually. So again, we're on an i5 13500. This is a chip that runs fine with the stock cooler. This is much better than the stock cooler, and then to keep making it better. I guess this is the point that I'm trying to get across. We have a portion of audience that doesn't understand or can't comprehend that better only gets so good. And beyond that, you're making it worse. So the best example, I'm trying to think of an analogy. There's nothing in life that I can think of where more is better. There's having enough, but then once you exceed enough, you get to a point, well, Bill Gates once said, well, initially he was flying coach as Microsoft was getting popular. Why are you flying coach? You're worth billions of dollars, whatever it was at the time. He goes, oh, I'm not a big person. I don't need a big seat. We're all taking off and landing at the same time. So what's the point? And they said something along the lines of, what have you learned about being rich that other people should know? And he goes, the thing that surprised me was once you can afford to eat at the finest dining restaurants, once you reach that point, which he's way up here financially. Once you reach this point down here financially, and you can regularly dine at the finest restaurants in the world, it doesn't get any better. No matter how much more you make on top of that, this doesn't change.
Right.
This money he earned 10 years ago, which provided him he could dine out at any restaurant in the world, when he made 10 times more than that, none of that changed. So in the same sense, if you take a couple of aspirin because you have a headache, taking the whole bottle, not so good. 5 quarts or whatever your car takes of oil, it's good. 10 quarts of oil in a car that only needs 5, you're going to blow your engine up. Damage occurs. As a kid, trick-or-treating, and I want to eat all my Halloween candy, a little bit of it's good. The whole bag, not so good the next day. Feel terrible. Alcohol might feel good. Too much. Everything. Money, you think having more money is good? You're going to have problems. You'll wish you didn't have the money. It becomes like almost a paranoia that people try to take it. I've seen some people just kind of self-destruct when they came into a lot of money and kind of went a little crazy. So,
but actress Sophie Tucker chat said, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better.
Look, there's comfortable,
yeah,
right? There's the ability that you don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills. But on the other hand, when you've got so much that you could have trusted people, family members, your own brother stealing from you, like what happened to the comedian Dane
Cook.
Dane Cook, his own brother basically drained his account. He trusted his brother to handle his money. He had so much money and he was so busy working and earning it, he didn't notice the money was bleeding away.
Yeah.
What a nightmare. And this is not a new story. This has happened time and time and time again. Well, if my mother had a very simple philosophy. My mother never had any money because they can't steal it if you spent it.
And I don't know whether that was Dane. I don't think that was either a stepbrother or a half. That was not a full-fledged.
Or was it in-law?
No, it was a brother, but it wasn't a full-fledged blood
biological or half, maybe.
Right. It was either a step or a half. So, and
regardless,
on that happy note, yeah,
you think you could trust your brother to handle your money, right? You're on the road, and what Dane Cook did to earn basically what Dane Cook, and it's an interesting story if you guys ever want a study in business, is Dane worked as a comedian through an agent, and the agent would book these, the venues, and set all that up and create the tour. And Dane he was never going to get the money back.
No.
That's gone. It was spent. It was gambled away. His brother went to jail.
Yep.
And Dane was left with nearly nothing. And he had to start all over again. And what took him, 10 years to build, he built back in a year by himself. And he did something no other comedian had ever done before. He called up the venue and said, "What would you charge me to rent your venue? And we'll work out the deal with concessions and a commission on that." And Dane already knew how many seats he could fill, so he knew when a venue was too big or too small. Some venues said, "We don't work with individuals. You have to go through this company." Other venues said, "Yeah, we'll charge you the same we charge your company that represents you." So Dane cut out the middleman, did it himself, booked his own venues, and he built back not only the money his brother stole, but even more than he ever made before in a very short period of time by having this different way of solving the problem, which shows that the guy you see on stage telling the jokes and being goofy is a pretty smart businessman who did something no comedian had ever done before. And that's a story. They need to make a movie out of that. It's really impressive. But that's why I say having more of something, like if I don't have it, you can't steal it from me. You know what I mean? So in the same sense, when we're talking about cooling and we're talking about RAM, when we're talking about storage, when you get too much of it, it starts working against you. Not only do you begin to have a point of diminishing returns, it can actually start hindering you and causing system performance to slow down or to create other problems. So for example, a 4 terabyte drive that fails loses up to 4 terabytes of data. You understand you're paying more for a drive, and if something fails, if you don't have a backup, you're losing more eggs in one basket, if you will. And if you are backing up and that drive is nearly full, that's going to be a long time, which might be the reason why you're not backing it up regular, is it takes too long. So more can have consequences that involve an investment of more of your time and more of your risk, and it's going to cost more of your money. So the question that each of us have to ask ourselves is, for each of us individually, what is too little? What is too much? And sure, Mitch can go to an i7 or an i9. It would be fine if he wanted to spend more money for it. It would run hotter. It would cost more in electricity to run. The fans would be noisier because the chip runs hotter. It would spend more money on the chip. And at the end of the day, he's not typing any faster. His internet's not going any faster. So what's the point? Furthermore, that chip is going to depreciate faster than a middle of the road chip, which won't depreciate as quickly, making this a much more sound investment from the end user perspective. Well, Mitch referred to this as an 8-year build. I'd say it's a 10-year build these days.
Okay.
So if you weren't going to make it 8 more birthdays.
That's right. I'll will you this computer. All right, so
That's look around.
Yeah, so
That's what I need. Thank you.
So here's our bracket.
I'll will you a kick in the crotch.
That's nice where it's top. So then
you notice how they've already got the screws installed for you. Some other coolers, you've got to put all that in yourself.
Yep. So
the question is, did they already set that up for socket 1700? Probably. Usually, whatever the latest socket is, if there's anything pre-set up, it'll usually be pre-set up for the latest. So if you want to use this on an older generation chip, expect to have to move these screws. They sit in an oblong hole here that's covered by this plastic, and you lift that plastic up and you can adjust that screw a few millimeters in towards the center or out towards the edge. I'm going to guess that this has been pre-configured out of the box for socket 1700, which one more time is the same mount points and distance on the latest Intel Ultra socket 1851. So even if it doesn't say 1851 on it, you're still okay to buy any cooler that works with socket 1700 on the latest Intel chips. That being said, what we do is we pick the board up, and you see I'm going to grab it by the heatsink, and I'll just kind of tilt it here so you can see. And it doesn't matter if we put this on this way or this way. It's the same. And or let me rephrase. There's a little notch cut out right here and right here. And those notches are meant to move around some of the mounting screws. Now on this one, instead of where the notches are, the screws that hold this metal plate, this is the back of the CPU socket. There's 4 screws in each corner, and there's 4 holes. And those holes in the bracket are meant to prevent the screws, if they aren't completely recessed, from bending or warping this plate. This plate has to be completely flat in order for your heatsink to secure completely flat on the other side. If it's not completely flat on the other side, then it's not making full contact with your CPU, and it's not something you can see, but you will witness fans running faster and the temps running higher because you've not installed it straight. But it's that easy. It's right out of the box. It's ready for you to just slide into place. Now I'll use a finger to just hold that in place as we turn the board back around. It's going to want to slide out of there. And that leaves us then with the posts that are sticking up. So usually what we have to put on most coolers at this point is a little plastic spacer, and then the brackets on each side. And then the heatsink goes on and the fan goes on the heatsink. It's really very easy. Now the stock cooler is even easier because it just has 4 pegs you push down and you're done. And the stock cooler has thermal compound pre-applied, whereas we need to apply our own, but that's super easy. Either way, whether it's pre-applied or you do it yourself, really doesn't make any difference in cooling. So some people have a personal preference for one reason or another. In the bag of parts that you've got over there, Mitch, there should be some plastic spacers.
And there are.
Okay, on the plastic spacers, is one side soft and one side hard plastic? Does one side feel like the end of it, the cap, has like a rubber softness?
It does, yeah.
Okay, so take one of those. Yeah, set everything else down. Take one of the spacers. That rubber softness is meant to go against the board.
Gotcha.
And you'll just push that on all the way down till it hits the board. And just repeat that with the others. And that's so it doesn't mar up and scratch up the board or the circuitry that might be under. Mostly, if you turn it on, put it on the other way, turned around, then it just fits really loose. It doesn't fit right. So you can see he's struggling a little bit. Like that one, I don't see the screw poking out the top.
No, I'm just
did it on purpose.
This one, yes.
Okay. The other thing that these spacers are doing when he locks them in like that is now that back plate that was falling out before, that's going to stay in place when I pick this board up. It's not going anywhere. That's really convenient when you're installing and you're working by yourself and you don't have somebody to hold it in place for you. Now the brackets we're going to use here on the socket 1700, all of this is explained very well in the included manual, enclosed manual, which we don't need because we've done these dozens of times. The brackets have a lip on them and a thread that is going to face up. You don't want that thread facing down. That thread in the middle of this bracket is what the heatsink attaches to. We want to put these brackets on an Intel system with this lip facing the outside edge, not the inside, but the outside to support that heatsink that's going to sit in between. And we want to place them, because you could put them on horizontally or vertically. The right way to do it is to place it over that release latch that we lifted up to put the CPU in. Cover that latch by placing this bracket right on top of the same screws we just put the spacers on. Here, let me let you do that. Making sure that you can tell left from right based on where this lip is. The lip needs to go to the outside edge. These need to face each other like a mirror image. There's a word for that. Man, I'm having a hard time finding my words. Symmetry. It needs to be symmetrical, which means they both don't go on. It's not two left shoes. You have a left and a right, and when they face each other, they're a mirror image of each other. It's not two lefts. Anyway, in the same sense, there's a left and a right, and you can tell them apart by where the edge is. And you know if it's horizontal or vertical on an Intel chip, because the first one will go either over or right alongside that lever that we lift up to put the CPU in or take the CPU out. Very easy. AMD is a little different, but on Intel's it's all the same. With that being done, the next thing we do is secure this bracket down, and that's what these little thumb screws are for that came in the bag here. We've got 4 of these, and you can go ahead and just put those on the threads that poke out through the brackets. Did you just grab 1?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you grabbed 2 and I was left with 3, and I'm like, I was confused. You should only have 4 of these. AC's drafting. Hey, there's Aaron. He says, continuing on with Barry Klein's idea, happy birthday, Mitch.
Yes, and I've got a surprise for you, chat.
Well, Barry Klein says, with $5, I'm leading the chat room and singing happy birthday to Mitch. Mitch, you'll have to use your imagination to hear it. He doesn't want me to sing.
And I have a surprise for you, chat. About 3 weeks ago, your Uncle Mitch went to Hollywood, and I hired a company that specializes in making demo clips for actors for their demo reel. And I played a doctor on the clip, and the company that shot the reel, JIG Reel Studios, was so impressed with my acting partner and myself, was so impressed with the clip.
Whoa.
That they emailed me and said, may we put your acting clip on our website? And I said, absolutely. So you can do your Uncle Mitch a favor and go to imdb.com, Mitch Morrison, and it's boom, my headshot and the new clip, which is Dr. Scene. Pretty dramatic, but I used an actress from my acting class here who was kind enough to drive over, and it took maybe 2 hours to shoot. And the director said, I had no idea you actors in Phoenix were this talented. And I went, you know, so I think it turned out great. Mara has been kind enough to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, there's a link in the video notes if you want to see it. What would you call that? A sizzle reel? A demo reel?
It's just a clip.
Just a clip.
That's...
but it's not a clip from a bigger scene. That's the whole...
That's the clip,
That's the whole thing.
I wish it would have been a little bit shorter. It came in at 2 minutes. I tend to like to write, because I write the script for the clip, a little shorter, about a minute, but there's parts in it that I could cut out, but I like having a standalone clip. They shot it with what we call a cinema red camera, very expensive, looks just like a movie or a TV show, and yeah. I'm proud of my work, and rehearsed with a girl via Zoom, and then once in person before we went over to to do it. So enjoy. It's a little sad, but I really felt good that the director was very impressed with our professionalism. And I think this clip, I showed it to my agent here in Phoenix, and she just went, wow, and said, I need to put this, in your file, Mitch, because I would certainly send it to people. And so there you go.
Mitch has been in some stuff in TV and commercials and movies.
Yeah, vitamin water commercial and adult films. No, we weren't going to adult films.
I thought I recognized that from somewhere before.
That's mighty big of you, Mitch. So and I can't wait to. I've already written another one.
The clip is really well done, and you think, well, can't you just shoot a clip in Phoenix? But I understand going to where the talent is, the places that have sets that you can use. That these are people that know how to use the cameras and the lighting and the sound and the editing.
Right.
So Mitch can focus on the acting part of it. So it's really well done, and we encourage you after the show, be sure and check out Mitch's IMDb page. You'll see the video right there.
Yeah. And again, this company has what we call standalone sets. Like if you want to do a policeman, they have an interrogation room. They have a room with a hospital bed. People love, talking, dying scenes. They've got about 7 standalone sets. So it's then very easy for me to, what do I need different than where I showed you people where I played an undercover cop in a car with a young, nice black man. So I've got that, where I spent 2 months growing a beard, which I couldn't stand, but I did anyways. So I've got the police detective, now I've got the doctor, and you have to, as an actor, you have to know your brand. I'm certainly going to be cast as the senior lawyer, the mature doctor, or the grumpy older police detective. So I know my brand, and so then you want to have clips showing your brand. And so I'm just excited to shoot another one. And
and like anything else, the more you can rehearse, the more you can have opportunities to do whatever it is you do. If it's working on computers, if it's acting, any opportunity you can get to keep exercising that muscle, that skill, should only lead to getting better and better and better.
Yeah. And clearly some people are jumping off to watch it because 6.0 said, well done, congrats. So thank you. I'm one of the rare male actors, which ticks off all my young men in their 30s in my acting class here in Phoenix, is because I can cry on cue. And of course they're like, Mitch, how can you do that? I can't do that. And I said, well,
just think of Carrie's life.
Yeah, well,
makes me sad.
That's But I'm like, well, kids, and I call them kids, but I'm like, I've got 30 years of more life's experience that I can draw from, and so you better learn how to do that. And on that sad note, are we going to use your nice compound that you have, or you want to take a gamble and see?
They're all the same. The thermal compound I use,
it's
still Scythe.
Okay,
and right. It's just they changed the container.
And I never
it's the same stuff.
Oh, and this is a first. It actually has a spudger.
Thermal spreader tool.
Spreader tool, which
I don't use those because I can't feel how much grease is going on.
So we'll
I don't use that. Essentially, what I was doing when you were talking there was just taking all these parts.
Okay.
We're not using any of these, and we never will.
Yeah.
So again, you might choose to hold on to them if you think you're going to move this to an AMD system or a different socket at Intel. But if you were going to do that, why wouldn't you buy a new cooler? These are cheap. I hate throwing stuff away, but
did you want to step off to get your glove, Dr. Carey? I mean, you're all about the. You're not going to.
Oh, for the thermal. I was wondering what did you think we were doing next?
Yes. Did you want to go get one, and I shall entertain the troops as.
Yeah. Also, I want to talk to. Tomorrow about that call that came in. That might be something she can take care of.
Okay.
Well, we're on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Let me find out. That was one of my clients calling me. They don't normally
Okay.
If they call, it's usually on a Monday, not on a
yeah.
Friday afternoon. So I'm a little concerned.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
I'll give them the joke of the day, no problem. And so you go.
You know what? That's a good time for me.
Yeah. So there
I'll
you
be
go.
right back.
Yeah. Now, friends, it's a time in the show for the bad joke of the day. Now, let me think here. I got it. How do you turn a mosquito into a vegetable? I don't know, Uncle Mitch. How do you turn a mosquito into a vegetable? You squash him. Hey? Wah, 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 wah. John Williams, Mitch Morrison's a nice clip. Well, thank you. Yeah, I can't take all the credit. My actress has the rare thing that actually surprised me was that she could cry and her eyes would not become bloodshot. I've never seen that. I mean, in a person. After one or two takes, I had brought some Visine. Just not only for myself but for her, and after about the second time she cried, and she's dabbing it with a tissue, and I'm like, your eyes aren't bloodshot. That's the craziest thing. She's like, I know, it's just, I don't know if it's a gift, but she's like, my eyes don't get bloodshot. And so like, oh, so, but we only, because we're professional, we only on her close-up we only did it 3 times, and that was enough. And the director's like, no, I got what I need. So yeah, but I'd never seen that in a man or a woman who could cry and not have their eyes get bloodshot. So there you go. He brought the box. I don't know if that's good. Does this come with a little cellophane on it or no?
Yeah, usually it's sealed so it doesn't leak.
Sealed that you just have to twist or something. But there you go.
You sure you want to do this on camera?
Yeah.
Glove is clean.
Yeah.
Did I turn? Yeah, I turned my mic back on.
Yeah.
All right, so
where's your headlamp? Okay.
It's my light shining up my forehead.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm like a human flashlight. Yeah, I don't like the way that they will wrap the cellophane around these. So you don't have like a pull tab to remove it. If they gave me the pull tab, that would be great. Okay. And the problem is if they don't give you that, it's possible it could leak out in the package. And not only is it messy, but it may not leave enough for what you actually need to put on your CPU. Someone like me, I got lots of extra, but there's not much in here. There's, despite the size of the tube, this tube is not filled. Cool. It's only maybe.
And we'll see if it's fresh.
Oh, I can promise you it's fresh. Okay. We haven't had any bad thermal compound from Scythe.
Let her rip. I'd say that's pretty good. I've seen you, watching your shows where it comes out dry and
it's like clay.
Yeah, and you're like, no. Then you'd have the paper towel, and it's very nice.
Now I kind of guesstimate how much we need here. It's spreading a little bit thick, but it's not bad.
And Chad, as I reminisce, I can only remember one time when your Uncle Kerry has that nice tape right there.
Forgot to take that out.
Luckily someone in chat where he was just getting ready and he looked over. No, wait. You forgot to peel the protective tape.
You know what?
They caught you once.
Everybody's allowed to do it once.
One mistake.
But if you keep doing it over and over again.
Phil Stodd, Mitch, what did the janitor say when he jumped out of the closet? Okay. Supply.
Supplies.
Supplies. Like surprise. Wow. That's a good one, Phil. Yeah. Okay. Now can I take the pad off? Or the peel off?
The colander, you're making pasta or whatever. I shouted into a colander once. Really strained my voice.
And then people really freak out because, like you said, they get nervous because they're like, does it go this way? I know it doesn't go this way because you don't have two thingamajigs there, talking technical. So, but does it go this way?
Mara refers to those as what he wants.
Yeah. So they get a little unsettled, and you're like, don't panic. I mean,
on the Scythe coolers and on most heatsink style coolers, your fan is going to go next to the ram, and you'll notice how this end sticks out further. And this end, this is what this screwdriver is for, because in order for us to tighten that nut down, and that's a nut, not a screw, that's why that's a thread, we're going to go right through this hole and down, and that's why they've given us this particular driver enclosed rather than putting this on you to figure it out. That's a nice touch. So the one that you don't have to go through the hole, the one that's exposed on the outside of the heatsink, that's going to go towards the ram. It's that easy. So we can peel that. There's a protective film that keeps this polished surface clean of any oils from your skin, dust, dirt.
I like that it has
hair.
I like that it has an exclamation.
Yeah.
Please remove me.
Well, more importantly, it's very hard to see against the metal, but the black pull tab is what stands out. And that's why I wish they had like a little tab on the seal, the little cellophane seal on that. Make it very much easier to just pull and tear that off versus getting my knife out and having to cut it. So this is going to go on in this orientation here.
Very exciting.
And the fan is going to go on this side, and we're going to blow air this way out the back of the case. This is where our I/O shield is. And essentially, like I said, these are not screws, these are nuts. So we line it up over the screw right here. Just give that a couple of turns to get it started. Then come down the top here and get that one a couple of turns to get it started. And what you're going to want to do is kind of bounce back and forth. A couple of turns over here, and then a couple of turns over here. The reason we're doing that is if we tighten one side all the way,
you don't seem...
I'm definitely not on the other side, am I?
It's spinning there.
I'll try and equalize those out. As we get closer to bottoming these screws out, or these I'm trying to think what they're called. They're going over the thread. So this is actually the female end, and the male end sticks up out of the bracket. What we're trying to do is keep it level so that it doesn't sit cattywampus.
Yeah.
That's your word, isn't it?
Yep. On the vertical.
On the vertical. We want to keep it completely flat as humanly possible in order to have the best heat transfer. And you'll know if it's completely flat. Well, let me rephrase. You'll know if it's not completely flat because your cooler isn't going to work well. And one of the easy ways that you can tell is by simply removing those two screws and look under the cooler and see if there's any part of your thermal compound that looks undisturbed, as though nothing made contact with it. And you can see you must have been, warped a bit, or installed it not quite flat. And usually just sitting it back down and going back and forth, a couple of turns here, a couple of turns there. It's really when you get down to those last few turns. It almost doesn't matter if you tighten down one side 3/4 of the way before you start the other side with regards to flatness. Where it makes it difficult is there's little springs under here, and the more you tighten down one side before you start the next, you may have to put a lot of pressure down and fight against that spring instead of just naturally going back and forth. It's much less effort, and it results in a much more likely successful job at keeping those surfaces, the mating surface between the bottom of this heatsink and the top of that CPU, called the internal heat spreader. Then we just put the fan on. Now the brackets on this fan indicate which way the air flows. Where these brackets are is the direction the air comes out. The center, where the logo spins, that's the direction the air comes in. We want the air to come in from the front of the case, through the heatsink, and out to the back. And he's got a fan in the back here that is also mounted in the same orientation, where it's bringing air in from this side, in here, and blowing it out the back. So together, they work together to move the air all in the same direction, front to back. That is more important than having more fans, is making sure you have an uninterrupted airflow, all moving the same direction. That's why I say earlier about adding more can make things worse and not better. Not only are you spending more money, not only you're adding things you don't need to add in most cases, but in many cases you're making it worse because you've now impeded the efficient airflow process from one fan to the other by now blowing air up and breaking that stream. It can leave dead, empty spots, almost like a black hole in the middle or a vortex, where the thing that the air is moving around instead of across is no longer getting proper cooling. And now because you spent that money to buy those fans that you didn't need to have more noise and consume more power, makes your system run hotter than it did before you did all that unnecessary work. So for the most part, unless you're overclocking your system, one exhaust fan and one CPU fan are all you need in a build. Anything more than that is over the top unless you have a radiator, or if you have a discrete GPU, you might want to put a fan in the front to blow over it. Because Mitch isn't using a discrete GPU, he does not need those two fans in the front.
But all my desktops have two fans in the front. That's my good luck charm. My good luck charm. You're wasting money.
Mom always cuts the crust off. It's not how Mom does it.
And puts the petite marshmallows in my cocoa.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm not making fun of it. I'm just like.
And the sandwich can't be cut here. It's got to be cut on a vertical.
You haven't told this story
for a nice triangle. I don't like it this way. If the bread's square, you cut it like that. No. It's got to be on the where it's a beautiful, nice triangular shaped sandwich.
Sometimes you get to know somebody a little too much.
Yeah.
Forks go on the left.
Yeah.
Don't ruin my meal by putting my. This is the wrong fork.
Right. Yeah.
You Philistine.
Yeah, that's a salad fork, not a. What's the difference? Okay.
One of my favorite stories was the little girl that always, every Easter, her mom cuts the end off of this ham before she serves it, and she says, "Why do you do that?" And she says, "Because that's what my mother always did. So you'll have to ask Grandma." So she sees Grandma and she says, "How come you cut the end off of the Easter ham?" And she goes, "Because that's what my mother always did." So her great-grandmother's still around, and she sees her great-grandmother, and she says, "How come Grandma and Mom cut the end off of the Easter ham? You know, they say they do it because you do it. So why do you do it? You know, why do they do it?" And she goes, "Well, dear, I have no idea why they do that. I did it because my pan wasn't big enough." So sometimes we find ourselves in habits of comfort that no longer make any sense. Well, that's the way we've always done it.
Right.
And I've always been the rebellious type. I just was born that way. And I've always questioned why. Why do we do it like that? And sometimes I find out the hard way there's a good reason, and other times I find out there is no reason. So I question everything, and I love that story because I find it to be very true in life, and the only way to know the difference is to try another way. You might find out the other way's better.
So let me see you without bending those brackets. I like that they have, what is that, a bracket notch?
There's a little notch in there.
Just thump.
And there's also a little notch in here.
Yeah.
Right? So if we line this fan up, remember I want the airflow going out through the front.
But where's our fan header? Is it over here?
Yeah, it's going to be
right there,
close to the corner, the top of the board, close to Mitch and myself, on every board other than, say, a mini ITX board. And then I just grab that fan buckle and pull it. It just stretches. So I've done one side, just come to the other side. We'll try and get it centered as best we can.
And you're doing it by feel.
Well, I'm just looking at it. Like,
gotcha.
where's it centered?
Right.
That's mostly an OCD thing, not really a technical thing. And I pull that buckle, and it'll lock right into in between the fins and a little groove here. And I can see from the top, the fan is sitting on top of the radiator on an angle. This will not affect our cooling. I don't like how it looks. So if I pull on the fan to stretch those brackets a little bit and pull that towards me, now the top has an even gap front to back. That's a visual thing, not a technical thing. But if I'm going to do a job, I want to be proud of my work and not just try and slap through it lazily or, you know, get it done because I'm impatient. It's these little details that really make the difference between what's good and what's great. And I've had this conversation so many times with people that the difference between a good job and a great job is about 15 minutes. And if you just put that extra 15 minutes in, it really shows other people your pride, your personal concern, of doing a good job or the best job possible, that somebody doesn't have to come in and clean up after you. And people admire that. A lot of people don't do that themselves, but they admire when somebody else does it for them. Early in my career, when I worked at Intel, just as a related story, I was the laptop guy. I was the only one who worked on laptops for the Ocotillo campus in Chandler, Arizona. Intel's like 12,000 employees. And the only employees in that period of time, the mid-90s, that had laptops were executives, upper management. So you got to make sure you don't screw up.
Yeah.
These aren't just regular employees. And when I was done working on the laptops, I would take the power cable, you know, the power brick and the plug, and I would fold them back and forth, you know, and put a little zip tie, or I'd wrap the cable around itself and feed it through. Even though it wasn't given to me that way, oftentimes it's just a snake of wires in the laptop. Here, fix that. I always cleaned it with, you know, use Windex or cleaner to get the outside of the screen or the outside of the laptop, use a microfiber cloth and water to wipe the screen, make sure the keyboard's clean, make the cable nice. This is in after the repair. This is just giving it back to them the way I wish somebody would return it to me. A lot of times you take your car to a dealership, after they do the oil change or whatever work you're having them do, they run it through the car wash, right? That was just a throw-in, like, oh, we'll just clean the car, well, we've got it. And the number of managers that I worked for, who, you know, it's a big company, they don't know who I am. Are you the guy that gave me my laptop back like it was brand new? Was it you? Yeah, that's how I was trained to do it. I've never seen anybody do that before. People pay attention. And usually the people who are paying attention are the people you want to be paying attention. Those are the people that can decide if I get promoted. Those are the people who can influence my managers and say good things. And it literally takes maybe an extra minute or two to do that. It's that one little extra step that goes above and beyond repair that maybe some customers don't notice, but the ones who do, those are the ones you want to notice. That's been my experience.
Now, are you going to need a zip tie?
We are going to need a zip tie because we're going to plug in. We've got 3 fan headers on this board right up here. 1, 2, 3. And written, etched on the board next to them tells you what they are. You could always pull up a manual if you're not sure. And I'm going to turn this back around so Zach can read it. This one says, well, it's upside down. CPU fan 1. Then going this way towards the board, it says CPU fan 2 / I can't, it's so tiny. Can you read what that says? It's upside down.
No, not without a magnifying glass.
You're gonna make me get out my magnifying glasses, are you?
Your glasses for your glasses.
These are my glasses.
Oh, glasses.
They call me 6 eyes.
Yeah, boy, those are Coke bottles. All right. Not to give them a plug.
Oh, WP, that would mean water pump.
Gotcha.
And then all the way over, it says CPU fan. Five? Wouldn't it be 3? Wouldn't it go 1, 2, 3? I swear this says CPU fan 5 or water pump.
Okay, because
So I don't know why you need 2 water pump headers.
I've got 3 other fans to power. So.
Well, but you've got all these fan headers down
good,
here,
good.
so we'll see where the cables will run.
Okay.
And we might use a fan splitter. You want these 2 fans to run at the same speed. You don't want one fan running fast and one fan running slow. Usually that's visually disconcerting.
Aren't they WPA
or PWM?
Yeah, close.
Regardless, each fan header is controlled by the BIOS individually, depending on the temperature area that it's monitoring.
Okay.
So usually you want your fans to run in a synchronous speed when they're visual, right? So the ones we can see, we want them kind of rotating at the same speed. Okay. So they can go on a fan splitter and then share one header if you want to. You don't have to. And in the back, it can run at whatever speed it wants to run.
Right.
And then, of course, this one will run. This is the most important run. And that's why it's important, specifically for the CPU header, that we're monitoring the temps on the temperature sensor here. There's temperature sensors around the board. And depending on where you plug in the fan, you're telling that fan to react according to the individual temperature of that area. So if we're plugging the CPU fan in a fan header down here, then this is not adjusting to the heat of the CPU, it's adjusting to the heat of something over here. Likewise, if we plug these two front fans in different opposite corners of the board in two different areas of heat, one may spin faster than the other, one may crank up where the other one doesn't. It's like you think something's wrong. You can get a support call for that if you're selling a computer to somebody like that. There's two different solutions for that. One, you go into the BIOS manually and adjust them, but that means every time the BIOS gets wiped clear or updated, you might end up with a support call because you'll always have to put it back the same way. You want to keep it sort of bulletproof and always the same. Just use a simple fan splitter, plug it into one header. Whatever that one header does, both fans do.
And Peter, like old Buster again.
Hey, Buster with a 10-pound super chat.
Thank you.
He says, Mitch the doctor. It reminds me of when the doctor told him he had cancer. Ooh, that might be hitting home a little bit.
So you want a zip tie? Yeah, to make that nice and neat. See, that wouldn't bother me to be hanging, but Uncle Carrie.
It's gonna bother me.
Yeah, but Uncle Carrie's no.
I'll tell you what. Let me throw this
Yes.
dirty glove out, put these away, and I'll grab a zip tie.
Tie. Well, I noticed chat, someone said, hey, Motorcycle Mitch, before I went skiing, I had a friend, he changed the oil in my bike and then said there's gear, so the motor oil, then the gear oil, and then he kind of went on vacation and I went to the actual motorcycle dealership and said, you know, I think my radiator needs to be flushed. And so I had that done, so my bike is all set for a long road trip, but I don't know. I thought riding would be glamorous, and it is, but on the freeways, it's just so boring. I mean, I have cruise control and music in my helmet, but it just, if I was on 2-lane roads like the old Route 66, it might, but I'm just on the fence maybe in June taking a motorcycle trip like I had planned a couple of years ago, where I want to go Phoenix to Vegas, Vegas to San Francisco, San Francisco to Portland, Portland to Seattle, and Seattle to Vancouver, Canada, and then come down the Pacific Coast Highway. And I'm thinking, if I get caught in the rain, and I don't want to ride in the rain, whereas if I take my Subaru with the 2 rear seats down, you know, in a pinch you could sleep overnight if you had to, and if it rains you have your car, you could have a nice drink there in your drink holder. And so I'm like, and I'm one of the rare guys that I don't mind road trips. I like driving, and so I'm like, I just don't know on the bike whether I'll do it. I would like to maybe go down the Pacific Coast Highway on the bike, maybe in June. I go up, spend a few days in San Francisco, and then go down, of course, beautiful Monterey and things. And so, but that, you know, you're talking a week at the most on the bike. But yeah. And I only really want to ride 5 or 6 hours a day. I mean, that's more than enough. I will not drive at night on the bike. I mean, even though the lights, but I don't do it even here in town. And so I don't know whether I think I'll take the car, because I've never been to Portland, Seattle, or Vancouver. And so I'm like, instead of taking the motorcycle, because what if I get all the way up to Vancouver? I'm like, I like it, but you know, I don't want to drive the bike home. Then I got to either ship it home or something. So I'm like, yeah, that might be time for a road trip. So, but the bike is all set, all the fluids changed, and she is ready to go. But and that's all I have to say about that. That's Forrest Gump's movie quotes. All right. Okay, we're ready to put her in.
Yeah, I'm going to put these spare parts in the box. I can get there. Take all this and put it in here. We'll put your screwdriver in there.
Okay.
Extra thermal paste.
Boy, I don't know if I have a room in Morrison Manor, you know, for those boxes.
Oh, have the butler
all
take
these
care of it.
computers take up, you know.
Okay, we're prepped here. We're ready to go into the install of the case. We will have to put an operating system on and everything, but I know this board works. We've previously tested it. There may be a BIOS update for it, which we can check for as well. So, yeah.
Do we take off the glass side? Yeah, because this is
Well, we're going to take off both sides.
Oh.
We're going to need to access both for the cabling coming out of the power supply, hook into the board, and then from the front to hook up our front port umbilicals and get the board secured into place. So you notice this this tab right here?
Yeah.
Okay. That usually indicates
it comes out this way?
Yeah. So in other words, if it was like a handle, it usually would be sliding. So what you need to do is use one hand to keep because we have it on the Lazy Susan, when you go to pull on that, it's going to
swing
rotate it around. So use one hand to either hold the Lazy Susan or just hold the case.
Okay.
And then pull. And that should, there you go. And that just takes the panel off like so. And then do the same thing to the other side.
But the other side is glass.
Yeah, but it's the same process. It's just
and I like that these thumb screws are, what do you call it when they stay in?
Captive.
So that, yeah, captive, yeah.
Frankie B, he acts like he doesn't know captive. The people trapped in his apartment that haven't been out.
Yeah.
Frankie B with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Frankie. Joining us from New York.
I don't think these tabs, take a look, have anything to do with, or it does, yeah.
Peter VZ joining us from the Netherlands with a €1 super chat.
I don't think so.
Remember, you're on that Lazy Susan. You need to hold the case.
I'll hold a Susan. You break the glass. All right.
No.
Thought it kind of hinged, yeah, like a door.
Okay. It's just not going to work.
No.
Mitch.
Okay. You
cannot. You ever like had a screw with a nut? Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Where the screw is turning, but so is the nut, and it won't come out until you grab another wrench or pliers to hold that side while you're turning this side. If you use both your hands to pull on this glass, then nothing is holding the case.
Okay.
You should be able to, by yourself, coordinate your hands to hold, put one hand up here, hold this case in place.
Okay. And do what?
Well, I would use your other hand if it were me.
Okay.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Left.
Okay, you're fine then. Hold that case and now pull that glass towards you.
Yes.
It's tight because it's new. And when I talk about screwing a nut that might be tight, I'm still referring to the case.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't drop it.
So I don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah.
All right, then go ahead and lay the case flat so that we can put the motherboard in and work with gravity.
Here's our shroud, chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've worked on the 4000D before. It's an old friend to the channel here. I've got no complaints about working in that case.
Well, let's make sure I put my fans in the right direction, that they're not blowing this way. Or yeah, they are blowing this way. Did I put them in backwards?
Does the center spin?
No.
Then you put them in the right way. You want the air being drawn in from the front, and then going into the case. On the Noctua fans, those supports kind of blend in with the fan blades. It can be hard to tell which orientation you've got, but you'll always see the center spinning on the side that the air is being drawn in from. So in Mitch's literal case here, there's a sticker on both sides. The sticker on one side spins, the sticker on the other side doesn't. And when Mitch was spinning the fan, the sticker that is facing Mitch is not spinning. That means the air is going towards him. So he did install those in the correct position.
Because like you said, it was easier before when you had the bracket that you knew that was the
brackets are there. It's just Noctua designed it to look like fan blades for some reason. So they kind of blend in. And once you learn what to look for, with Noctua fans, it's pretty easy.
Yep.
But it's always universal, the labels, the center spinning or not spinning.
And then with the fully modular, I just plugged everything in, but that's okay. So we got all the cables.
Go ahead and put the case back on its feet, because what you've done now is you've brought all the cables that are supposed to be in the back, you routed them right up to the front.
I did?
You did. Well, you should not be messing with power cables on this side of the case.
Okay.
All of these cables need to be on the other side where they're unsightly. We don't want to see them. So put the case back up on its feet. No, just this way. Trying to get Mitch more involved.
Ate my Wheaties this morning. Grape
now,
nuts.
when you're really strong, you'll eat somebody else's Wheaties.
Yeah, grape nuts.
All right, let me come around here and let's see what you've done. Oh, the 4000D, it has these extra doors for some reason. It's a great way to hide your cabling.
Okay.
Right, and then you've got this support bracket right here for like a 3-fin 360 millimeter radiator, which you're not going to use, but interesting they put that there where it can't be seen. This can be removed permanently, or you can just leave it in there. But behind this door, this is what's hiding everything. Let's just take the door off the hinge. This will make a little bit more sense, I think, for Mitch to understand that the cables coming out of the back of that power supply should all be coming out towards you guys. They shouldn't be going into the case. You see what Mitch has done is he's run all the cables up like, oh, that's going to give me easy access to whatever I need. The problem is he doesn't need all those cables, and we will route them directly under. We're going to route them behind this tray up and through these holes on top. So just go ahead and pull those cables back through. So
back through.
Yeah. You can do one at a time. It might be hard to grab a handful and try and force them all out. That's working harder than you need to. Stevie says hello, Carrie and Mitch. Greetings from the Netherlands.
Hey. Another place on a bucket list to visit. That list is getting pretty long. Is that? No, I got one more. That's the big one. I can't even. Where's that go? Here? Is that all of them? Yeah.
All right, let's take a look. Hey, now, what do we got here? We got a fan cable. Where's this fan cable going? Oh, this has a fan controller. Mm. So the problem with the way you've mounted the fan cable is you've got the cable coming out down on this corner. Okay. That's right across the middle of the motherboard.
Right.
You need to rotate this fan 90 degrees so that cable's coming out of this corner, and then you can route it through that hole right there, and then behind the motherboard. That way this is going to get in. What Mitch has done here, it's easy to assume we're just putting parts in, but you have to think about the part orientation and how this cable, for example, will now be directly smack dab in the center of the motherboard. What I want Mitch to do is I want him to take this fan, rotate it 90 degrees, so that this cable right here is coming out on this top far corner, and then it's going to run to this hole above the motherboard, and then he can run it behind the motherboard and plug it in. Basically the same place he's plugged it in, but a cleaner route. So these are the lessons in building that you'll figure out as you do it.
Screwdriver.
I'll give you the yellow handled driver. There we go. Also, for those that have OCD, the other thing that Mitch is going to do, you'll notice the Noctua label here is sideways. When he rotates that with the cable, the power cable, in the proper orientation for hiding that cable as much as possible, that label will also be straight up and, it won't be tilted. That being said, it doesn't really matter what condition, what direction the label's in. Nobody's going to see it. But in this case, it's kind of a double, sort of a double benefit that reassures that fan is in the intended orientation. are my big words today. Mike Flynn says, do you build gaming computers? I don't make any money building gaming computers. In a business, I make money with people that have something actually at stake, that are willing to pay to have something repaired, and typically do that on a regular basis. That keeps me pretty busy and keeps me employed. Any computer I build can be a gaming computer if you put a graphics card in it. What we're doing here for Mitch today would be an amazing gaming PC. If you're willing to drop 3 times more money on the graphics card than you did the rest of the system, you could have a gaming PC that rivals your neighbors and friends.
Now, when you said 90 degrees, you want it this way, correct? With the thing up on the top?
Yeah, so I'm mistaken. The actual label is upside down now. I was considering that we were rotating it the other way, and that the added benefit would be that the label would be right side up. But no, that label will be upside down. But that's okay. That's not important. I just thought.
So what do I do with this? No,
right now, nothing.
No wisecracks. All right.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah. Okay. So, but this is how you want it. Yeah.
That's how. That would be the ideal orientation of that fan, of all rear case fans. Have that power cable go out the top left corner, or sorry, top right corner of the fan when you're looking at it from inside of the case, out through the mounting hole and back behind the motherboard. That way you won't see it from the front, and it won't get in the way of installing other things.
I want to tell you, when you're working with all black,
it's hard to see.
It just, I can't.
Let me give you some light.
Aziz.
Yeah, any computer we build here would easily make a gaming PC. But why would we add $2,000 to the cost of an $800 computer? Unless somebody's paying for that, I'm not paying for it. The good news is, if somebody were to buy a computer from me, you know, one of these $800 builds, they could then purchase whatever AMD, Intel, or NVIDIA graphics card they wanted. As long as we make sure we've got a strong enough power supply for that card, the machine won't be holding you back. Only your graphics card will be. Thought you were done.
No.
He's not a real doctor. He just plays one on TV.
I can't even get the funny bone.
Well, no, you got to start with the screwdriver. Put the screw at the end of the driver. That's why it's magnetized. And then use the driver. And there you go.
But where do I want to?
Well, don't worry about that. Yeah, just get all 4 screws started first. Once the screws are started, the whole fan will move up and down in the slots the screws are in to allow for personal adjustment if you want the fan sitting higher or lower.
Aziz,
not all cases allow you to make a fan adjustment. At the end of the day, it's a personal preference.
Okay.
Some people don't care.
Okay, so now I've got them started, so now I can go up and down.
Yeah. So if you show everybody what he's done here, as he's rotated the fan around, and now the fan moves up and down to personal preference, or if you're installing something big down here that your fan might get in the way of, you might physically have no choice but to physically move that fan further up. With this build, it's very easy. And, you know, my gut instinct is to kind of pick the middle.
Okay.
Some people might want to go to the top. I think the top looks pretty good, actually.
Let's do it. Yeah,
I would lift it all the way up.
Okay.
It's just a preference, and it really doesn't make any difference. Yeah. But if there was a big radiator underneath here with fans, then that could interfere, possibly. And so they give you that play in the long slot so you can adjust that rear fan to whatever your personal preferences and requirements are. Johnny Weld says, love to see it. Thank you, Carrie. Love to see a gaming PC. You know what I'd love to see? The $2,000 spent on the graphics card laid out in $1 bills and stacks across this desk. That would be far more interesting to me. I think the gaming community is being brainwashed and bled dry financially for the silliness of nonsense to distract you from your precious and limited time here on the planet, secluding you socially from actually engaging in the outdoors and actual life going on outside. But that's just my personal preference. The older I get, the more responsibilities that are on my shoulders, the less I can enjoy spending time that I could be using doing something that matters, that makes a difference. If there's a squeaky hinge, I could be oiling. If there's a leaky faucet, I could be sealing. I would rather spend my time now. If I was 15 years old, different story. But at 15 years old, I sure as heck could never have afforded what these graphics cards cost today to play games. I'd have to go to a friend's house that had that stuff. So my encouragement is, you know, if somebody wants to buy a machine from me and put their own graphics card in it, we can certainly accommodate that, no problem. And by accommodate that, we just make sure there's a powerful enough power supply. For example, Mitch has got a 750, and that's pretty well good, right up to 4070, 4080. I think once you go above 4080, and certainly into the new 50 series cards or the TI cards, you probably want to go 850. But again, when you got to add that extra expense, you got to add the graphics cards extra expense, and it's a lot of money just to play games. And if you've got it, if you've got that money and you've got the time, I don't personally have any issue with it. But I don't have the money or time that I can build it just because you want to see it. Now, if you want to pay for it, now we're talking. Somebody's got to pay for it.
Well, Dr. Mitch here, sound effects. Ooh, is ready to go now. Okay, you move that.
Yeah, so we're going to take that cable that you routed right through the middle here. You routed it. I don't know what you did. Oh, I don't know. That's what I did. All right, let's just run that right out the top left hole in the case to try and hide that cable as much as possible. And then Mitch has a fan controller
here, which I never thought, that it had. So that's not kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you really don't need it. So the fan controller, what they've given as part of this case is not even. It's not even RGB. I mean, that's just a basic 6-fan controller.
Okay.
That's the idea that you could put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fans all on this one controller. I'm going to advise that we take that out. And the reason is that has to be provided separate power. And Mitch doesn't have that many fans, nor will he ever, to justify needing this. What this is adding is more cables to manage and more complexity for no reason, no sound practical reason. Some people will use something because they have it. I've gotten to a point in my life where I've realized sometimes just because you have something, the best thing you can do in some cases is throw it away. For example, I might have a cold. And for me to say, well, I've got it, I might as well give it to other people, isn't really doing anybody any favors. You might have an old, dull knife and you won't throw it away and you're not sharpening it. When a brand new knife that requires less effort to use is super sharp, would benefit your life and improve your life, you know, sometimes it's just time to let things go, especially when we're living in an era where things are so inexpensive compared to what they were 40 years ago. And advancement in technology has made the things we bought 40 years ago improved upon by today's standards. Somebody's eating out of an old Teflon pan that they've had for years are likely giving themselves cancer because the Teflon breaks down over time, especially if it's got scratches in it. You're ingesting that. Maybe a little bit of it won't make much difference, but if you're just too stubborn to replace a pan, those pans don't last forever. Cast iron, different story. Teflon, every 5 years you should be replacing those pans.
Well, we don't have to take it out. We're not going to use it. Just leave it there, but just not use it.
Well, the problem is, from my perspective,
okay,
if you leave it here, you still have all of these cables, right? We've got this cable, we've got this cable,
okay,
and I don't know what this one is, but this one would have to come off. This probably runs down to another power supply cable.
Okay.
So for me, I would never want to have this subject come up again. I don't want this 3 years, 4 years from now, we're going to upgrade this and we're back to dealing with this, and then, oh, what do we do with it?
Okay.
I would rather take it out, forget it was ever there, never use it.
Okay.
And if you ever want to put 3 fans back here and 3 fans up here, we'll find a different way to power them.
Okay. Yeah.
This is.
So is that with a screw that's being held? Can you?
There's 3 screws. There's one here. And what this does is, first of all, it's going to remove some of the complexity. By removing items you don't need, we're stripping it of weight, we're stripping it of unnecessary power consumption and future confusion, because you still, every time you see this and you forgot it's there, the first instinct is, how can I use it? And I'm telling you, your first instinct should be, do I have to have it? Because if I don't have to have it, let's get rid of it. Let's keep everything simple, and that way we keep it more reliable and ultimately less expensive. So even though this was already paid for and came with the case, it's not a good reason to use it. Yeah, this is actually pulling 2 more cables out of the rat's nest of what is a pretty simple build here. This is just adding more unnecessary cable management and complexity. So let's just get rid of it.
I can loosen this one.
Well, no, I'm stuck somewhere. Where's it going? Oh, I see. They looped. They looped it.
Loop-de-loop.
Okay. So personally, I would just chuck it. That was something that was needed 10 years ago. You don't need that today. When the difference, I think, in the perspective that I bring to the YouTube channel here is when I build something, I have to support it for the entire life of the computer. If I sell somebody a computer and they're doing an upgrade or they're having a problem with it 3 years from now, but out of warranty, I still expect they're going to call me and ask me questions about it. And the more complexity we have, or if we make a system different than all the others, how do I remember that? And how can I help that person? So we try and do everything consistently. Things have to be practical and make sense. It's not an emotional thing. It's not a matter of stubbornness in the sense that I've got it, therefore I'm going to use it. I can't run a business with that mindset. My business has to be consistent. I have to provide customers a good value. I've got to be relatively quick about getting it done, and adding more unnecessary work, making a job take longer and making future support more difficult is not in the benefit of my business. So by simplifying, keep it simple, we reduce the number of things that can fail, the complexity and the time needed to put it all together, including cable management, and ultimately an end user that's going to be satisfied much more often with fewer questions or possible questions, due to every part you add is one more expense, it's more time to install, it's one more thing that can fail. If we need it, we need it. And if we don't, let's just get it out of there so it's not a temptation where the customer says, I didn't realize that was in there, I'm going to start using it, and then that leads to a support call. So this is all trying to be, it's like a chess game. We're trying to plan for a future where the possibilities for things to happen are being reduced. We can't eliminate them entirely, but we could certainly remove that possibility, which otherwise would have existed if we chose to ignore it. That can come back over time, swing back around full circle, come back to bite you right back in the butt. So if you want to ask me how I know, I've got a lot of stories.
So are we ready to lay the...
Well, let's start with the power cable from the power supply. And we're going to run this power cable. Take a look here. Get all these kind of interwoven together. Oh, we have to put the motherboard in first, but the power supply, the power cable, it can go right through these grommets back here. And there is a little bracket in the front to hide the cables. And this bracket, if it's in your way, most of the time I work around them, but they're removable so you can run your cables and then put it back on. And this bracket is covering those wire grommets. But let's go ahead, let's lay this back down. Let's go back to what we were doing, which was securing the motherboard into the case. Make Mitch do all the work today. Now this motherboard, how many holes do we have to mount? 1, 2, 3 across the bottom. 1, 2, 3 across the middle. 1, Oh, this has a 10th hole because it's Asrock.
1, 2. I've got 9.
Yeah, 9 is standard. This board uses 10. So let's see if you've got the mounting hole. It's usually a micro ATX mounting hole. It's not typically used on an ATX board. We've had this discussion. It's something Asrock does. It makes no sense to me.
Probably this one is.
We don't have to use all the mounting holes, but if you want to be professional and you want to do a job better than an amateur, you will use all the mounting holes and you will use all the same screws, and they will all be the correct screws. So let's take a look in here. What we're looking for is this hole right here. It's labeled as AM. We need to put a standoff in that hole. That's the 10th hole that Asrock is using that pretty much nobody else uses. In the parts that came with your case, did you get a box? Or we haven't removed it, have we? Or did you remove it?
I probably removed it, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you removed it and you did not bring it over, we're stuck. We can't go any further. It's a critical piece that comes with your case. It's usually in a cardboard box, and in that box we'll have some zip ties and some screws. And we need those screws because that will contain the standoffs. All motherboard standoffs are not the same. Depending on the case manufacturer, they could be different threads or different heights, and it's not something you want to guess with. So if we put the case back up on its feet one more time, let's just check and see if Mitch removed that box of screws.
Yeah, that wouldn't be there. But usually I would set it right on the top.
Normally the box of screws will be in the hard drive cage. So if this case has...
I took the hard drive cage out.
Yeah, see, I don't even know what the hard drive cage was.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a... So, just so you know, when Mitch told me he was going to bring these parts over, I didn't expect he was going to have the power supply installed. And it doesn't bother me that he did it. That's one less thing I have to do. But now, live on camera, I am just now finding out he has removed the hard drive cage. He has taken the box of the components, and now that means I'm stuck because I cannot do the job right. I can work around it. I don't want to. I don't like working that way. And my preference, of course, is that he's welcome to take out anything he wants to from his case, but he should have brought all that with him for just this scenario, right? Because he lives a ways away. Better to be safe than sorry. If you don't think you need those parts, bring them with you just in case. You're going home anyway. It's not like it's taking up any more room in the car. So I think we might be at a bit of a premature end here. I mean, I can put a nylon standoff in there and it'll work and it's fine. The shame is he's got the parts at home. I can also look around here and see if I've got a matching standoff. Since it's Corsair, I don't know if it uses the same standoff as other Corsair cases. So let me take a look at what one of these standoffs looks like. Some are taller, some are shorter, some are thinner thread, some are wider thread. And if the standoffs aren't the same height, the board will not sit level. And if the standoffs aren't the right thread, you can tear up the threads in the motherboard tray, and there's no fixing that. Yeah, let me grab my 5mm. Let's take a look. And this is an Asrock thing. You know, it's just most motherboard manufacturers will use a standard ATX mounting, which is 3 holes across the middle, 3 across the bottom, 3 across the top. Asrock adds this extra one that's just below the middle, right down here, which is typically only found on micro ATX motherboards, where the micro ATX board, that's like the bottom of a micro ATX board. It doesn't belong, in my opinion, on an ATX board, and Asrock cannot explain to me why it's there. I've tried asking them, and they almost seem disturbed at the question, but at the same time, they're not answering the question. So, does it matter? Well, look, if you bought a Dell or an HP computer at Best Buy and you opened it up and you saw it had missing screws, how would you feel about that? And if anybody could save a quarter of a penny by leaving a screw out, and they're selling 10 million computers every 3 months, that could add up to significant savings for a big manufacturer like Dell and HP. And even they don't do that. So it's a hack job if you don't do it. But it doesn't. I just have certain standards, and I really don't like to make exceptions. But now I'm kind of in situation that, like I said, it's a long trip for Mitch to go back and come back again for a standoff. So let's see if maybe we've got one around here, because that's the best option. The second best option would be to put a nylon plug in it. And the third option would be ignore it and leave a hole. But then I would be embarrassed of that work. You know, if somebody builds it that way and that's their level, that's their business. I don't build that way. So there we've got a standoff that looks pretty standard. Pretty shallow, wide thread. And let's see. Oh, we don't have any screws to mount the motherboard. We can't do that either.
Don't you have a bag of screws?
The motherboard is going to take screws specific to the standoffs. Your case came with all those screws. Did you have other plans for those? Is there a reason?
Well, now I'm panicking because I don't know where that box is. I mean, I'm sure I wouldn't be dumb enough to throw it out, but I'm like, I don't know. I took the shroud, the cage, the hard drive cage out.
So I've talked about how impatience, and I don't know what the logic was in you doing this, but my guess is you were either anxious or maybe you thought it'd be fun, right? Or that you were saving some time for me. But now it's making it take a lot more time because we don't have everything, because it's been, you've changed it. You've changed it in a way that you didn't ask me. I didn't find out about it until you brought it here. And now we're left reacting. So I'm not sure, but maybe. I mean, I have a lot of screws, but what you're asking me to do is find 10 identical screws versus one identical standoff. I feel like I could probably find the standoff, but can I find 10? And you have them. Like, it came with the case. That's the only thing they're designed for. But I don't want to just throw my hands in the air without trying. So let me take a look. I've got my little ramekin here that has spare screws in it. It's down here under a pile of things, so bear with me for a second. Yeah, how am I going to get to that? Oh, it's on the other side.
Okay.
Whew. Okay, let me just set this over here, and I've got to walk around.
Yep.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah. Well, like you say, live and learn.
Yeah.
It's
saw not the end of the world. It just.
I saw that hard drive cage in there, and I'm like, don't need it.
Yeah, but you should have waited.
Yeah.
You should have. Anything we're manipulating won't match the viewer's experience if you've done that off camera. So someone's going to say, why does his case look different than mine?
Right.
Well, because he's changed it. Well, why didn't you tell us?
Yep.
Well, I didn't know. So, all right. In any event, it's not a crime. It's just a little hurdle, little obstacle.
Yes. Can I find the missing box?
Again, finding a screw or something like that is one thing. Yeah. Finding 10 of them that are the same.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of builds. I might, but you don't have those screws. It just wasn't in my syllabus for today's video.
Yeah. Or we just have to do a part 2. If I...
Those aren't the right ones, but they might work. Yeah, we might have to do a part 2. Not the worst thing in the world. You'll have to come back.
Yeah.
Or if you can't find them, we can always go on Amazon and order them.
Yeah.
And then that'll take a couple days for those to arrive. Or I can dig around late at night, because we don't have everything organized here in Studio C yet. I still might have other areas of screws that might work. I'm thinking of Marvin the Martian. Delays, delays. So in this ramekin, I've got lots of little spare parts of different thumb screws, case screws, silver screws, black screws, fan screws, glass. This went to something with glass that I haven't put back together yet. I'll be needing those at some point. Yeah. I can't remember what they go to, but I've got them. Let's see. Let me try something here. See, like these standoffs here, these go to a Corsair 200R. And As you can tell, as an example, that the standoffs are all varying on both thread type and height. They're all 5mm, but that's about all they have in common. And even coming from the same company, going from Corsair to Corsair, these standoffs vary from case design to case design. So while a 4000D will use the same screws as another 4000D, it does not use the same ones on a 200R. And as you can see, the 200R standoffs versus, I think the
4000.
200R versus the 4000. So that's the 4000. That's the 200R. That's a significant difference. And as you can imagine, the motherboard's either going to get pushed way down where the shorter standoff is, or pushed and bumped up where the taller standoff is. And that's assuming this end of the standoff is also the same depth and the same thread, which this one is not only larger, but has a longer thread, which probably isn't a problem. The thread type looks okay, but this would be way too tall and it would cause the board to warp up. In that case, you'd be better off leaving the hole blank. However, we still need to put some screws in to hold the board, and we don't have any. So yeah, we needed, I thought, an extra standoff and an extra screw. But where the screws are and where the standoffs are in the box that came with this case.
Yeah.
Okay. So that keeps everybody on board with where we're at. It's 3:23. We'll try and wrap this up by 4, one way or the other. It's a minor little problem, but you can see how that can hold the whole build up. And if you pay attention to all these details in your build, and then you kind of cut the corners to get around something, you've just defeated the whole point of all the care of detail you've taken in the rest of your build. So in my opinion, if you're not going to do it right, there's probably no benefit for you watching my videos, because it'll drive you crazy, the level of priority I put on the details. What I'm curious about is if these screws here will fit this standoff. It does. And then I would need 10 of these. That's the other problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This, if you can't tell from my demeanor, I don't find this entertaining or enjoyable to go through. If Mitch was bringing over an old computer that was laying around for years and years, and we're just trying to get it up and running again, get it going, we need a screw here, a screw there, that's no big deal. We're building it brand new, and we're already using the wrong screws to do it. They'll work technically, there's no difference. It's just, again, if you bought 2 Dell computers and one was built with one kind of screw and one was built with the other, but they both work the same, I would find that to be unprofessional. There's no consistency or pattern. And that's fine if somebody's building at home, but from a professional, I expect higher standards that I hold myself to. So, like I said, we could maybe get by here. I think these are longer. These are power supply screws. They're very similar, but they're a bit longer than what these are. I don't know what these came from. These are fan screws. There's another big standoff. Is all by itself in this bag when it should be with its brothers of similar standoffs. Try and keep these all together. What can you do? It's live, unscripted, and it is what it is. Just looking in the chat to see if there's anything here. So we have, how many do I have? 8? 2, 4, 6, 8. And I still haven't found a standoff yet. Which was how this all started.
Yeah. But you said you could put a nylon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be happy about it. Wait, what's this? That looks pretty damn close.
You want me to try a screw in that one?
Oh, I just saw another one.
Oh.
Just covered it up. This one might work. Let's see. Will it fit? I get lucky. We're okay there. Will the same size screw fit into the end of it? I don't think so. I think that's a thin thread. That would require a different screw on the inside. The center of it's a finer thread. Yeah, you see how that?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. No, it just stops. The screw won't go in any further. That usually indicates it requires the finer thread screw. So let me set that one aside. They look alike on the outside, but the center is different. Let's keep looking. I have way more screws than this, by the way. It's just, can you imagine sifting through hundreds of little standoffs, test fitting each one to make sure it can fit in the tray, make sure the screw that secures it will fit in, and make sure it's the same height as all the others? That's why if there's dejection in my voice, this isn't what I was planning to do today, but I would love to get this done for you. I just wish we didn't need so many. If we just needed one or two, we'd be fine.
Right.
But we need the whole kit. Oops. And then that's the other problem. Me being a slob. There's a screw right there. You know, I'm going to walk around barefoot and I will find every one of those that I dropped real quick. All right. This one might be the same as the other one. Let's see if that fits. Oh. I think we might have something here. Go ahead and put that in the ramekin for me. We might have it.
9's good enough.
No, we're going to do 10.
Okay.
But we'll look for 2 more of these shorter case screws. Let's see. Okay, so the one that we wanted to put in goes right down here. Yeah, I'll tell you what would have happened if this was not an Asrock board and we were using literally anybody else. It takes the 9. It wouldn't have occurred to me, honestly, until I put the board in to then go for the screws to secure the board. Once I have it all seated, my next thought is, let's secure it. Where's the screws? Wait a minute, we never took out a box of screws yet. We were going to get to this one way or another, but I made the assumption it was all there. Okay, now I will need to find 2 more screws like this, but first let's go ahead and set the case on its side. Let's continue where before we were so rudely interrupted with the need for parts. Let's go back and seat this, and everything here, the mounting holes should line up with the board. Usually that center post, yeah, the board sits right down. What is this? Wire tie for some reason. I'll move that over there. Okay. So now I need 2 more of these little screws here that we have 8 of. These look like a standard power supply screw, but they're not as deep. And the problem if you use the deeper screws is there's a good chance they won't sit all the way down. And one of 2 things happens. Either you tighten it so far that you realize it's not going in any further, you try and back it out and it backs out the standoff with it. That can make the motherboard very difficult to remove. And of course, again, it's unsightly because if you just leave it like that, you've got a screw that looks like someone didn't tighten it.
So pour them in.
I don't think we're going to find them in this jar, but all right. All right, I'll take advantage of that.
4 hands are better.
let's see. Wait a minute. Nope, it's a different kind of screw. That's a different kind of screw. That's definitely not the right one. Come on. Luck be a lady tonight. You feel lucky?
I do, yeah.
Was it 8 screws or was it 7 screws?
Yeah.
And all of this excitement, I've lost count. All right. Definitely don't need that one. Definitely don't need that or that. We can whittle away what we don't need. It's not going to be silver. So close. Oh, no. No, I think that's right. I'll set that here. Oh, and maybe this one too. Might be doing...
Looks, if it not, it looks pretty close. So.
Wow, it's really close. It might be good enough. See, the other thing is we have these more traditional screws here. Well, this is way easier to look through it this way. Oops. Oh no. No. Nope. 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 I mean, eventually, if we remove what we don't need, it should leave what we have, right? This is like for AMD heatsinks. I was prepared if you had that issue. This, I think, is a standard power supply screw. Oh, maybe not. We might be good. Okay. You think you can dump those in there without getting them all over the place? Nice. All right. Why is there an extra one? Oh, this was the one that didn't fit.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that wasn't a heart attack moment. Yeah, we're good. We are officially good. I don't think there's anything else we need from, because it's a simple build. Again, keep it simple, less complicated. Fewer screws are needed. Less complexity, and less chances of running into another scenario where we have to improvise.
You need some saran wrap over that ramekin.
No, actually, it seals up pretty good, and if the screws get loose, they're just in the bag.
Yeah.
But it sits up right.
Okay.
And I just keep that down here. Whenever I have leftover screws that I know I don't need, I just throw them in that ramekin. It's getting full.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So now what we can do, we just want to start all of these screws. We don't tighten them because we might need to shift the board around a little bit to get everything to line up properly. And if you tighten the screws down, then the board won't shift, and then it'll be hard to get the other screws to line up. So just get them started. There's 1 out of 10. Oh, you know, now that I think about it, the center post probably doesn't use a screw. That's just a post. So it is 10 standoffs and 9 screws. Yep. We didn't need 10, just 9.
Well, we dodged a bullet, so I can breathe easier.
Well, it's just, you know, the drive that you have to go back and make the trip again is what I'm...
Yeah.
It's not like he needs the computer today. It's mostly about the distance he has to go to, you know, not be able to take it back with him. I bet she only does that once.
Yeah. And then, chat, when I get home, it's the search for the missing binds.
Yeah, I'm sure
I'm pretty sure I know where the...
You're a pretty well organized guy.
I'm pretty sure I know where the hard drive cage. I wouldn't have heaved it. I'd have stashed it someplace.
Yeah, and it's probably inside of the hard drive cage.
Yeah.
You probably never took it out.
It's probably in my butler's quarters, so I'll have to ask him. Spiffington, what did you do? What did you do with that? Oh no, sir.
It's not Alfred.
No.
Thought you were Batman.
No.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Everything's lined up. 4.
My other butler was Sledgehammer.
5, 6, 7, 8, and woohoo! 9. I don't think I've ever seen a computer come in for repair that was missing 9 screws.
Yes.
But thankfully I was prepared.
Can I set it up right or no?
Yeah, go ahead and set it back up on its feet if you would. I'm going to put these extras back where they belong because, you know, you never know. Woohoo!
I mean, chat, do I wish the fan was black? Yes. I mean, but I'm like, yeah, it's facing a wall.
Oh, the heatsink?
Yeah, facing a wall. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy enough.
I'm just so used to this being flush, so that was kind of unusual.
Oh, the I/O shield not being sunk in like that.
Yeah, like that. So, but that's okay.
I never really thought about it before. I guess now that you mention it.
Yeah, that it's right up there, but
yeah,
it's okay. Got the 2.5 Ethernet that I can take full advantage of now.
That's power. That little bracket.
Little grommet? No.
Well, this metal plate.
We got to take that. I'll show you how to take it. Give me the sledgehammer.
Sometimes they pull out. Sometimes they have to be unscrewed. Usually I can work around them. So my preference is to try and work.
Is that a screw or a rivet?
That
feels like a screw to me. But
it's a rivet.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, that usually indicates that might be a hinge.
Okay.
So if that's a hinge, where would it unscrew? Is it? Again, reading the documentation would probably tell us how that, if that swings, it looks like it's on a hinge. Let me just verify. Give it a little
muscle there.
And as Mitch mentioned, with it being dark on dark like that, it may be very...
I can hold a light. Yeah.
Oh, I can see now.
Yeah, those are rivets. Yeah.
It's riveted.
Although
no, that looks like a screw on the other side.
On the other side, so.
But then it bends down and it goes to the front behind the bezel.
You sure you can't get that thing? You could feed it.
Oh, I could probably feed it.
Yeah,
I was just
like
normally I
said,
don't have to work that hard to do it, but it's a little narrower than others. But yeah, I'm sure if we just kind of
cattywampus,
just play with it a little bit, see if we can't get that to.
It's got I can lift it a little bit.
Oh, that's a good point. I can push it.
Yeah. I got it. I ain't got it.
Let's feed it.
No,
let's feed through. Take all the slack.
Okay. Yeah. More.
Okay.
More.
You got it all.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, haha. You see, that's going to hide that cable really nice, having that piece there, so that our 24-pin power cable right here will go like this. Where's that at? I got to turn this around so I can see it. The clip is going to always go towards the outside of the motherboard.
Okay.
And this only fits on one way.
It wants a little light.
Should be all right. I'm used to working in the dark.
Yeah, I heard a click.
Then we can push the extra cable back through.
Gotcha.
But remember, you're not going to have a lot of flexibility on a cable that thick.
Yeah, I like it. Leave it like that.
So don't push it in too much or you end up breaking the connector off. With regards to, like, we've got the fan cables here, and we have the the 24-pin CPU power connector and the rear fan to still hook up. This is graphics card power. This is SATA power. And what I'll do, just to kind of keep things clean for right now, is use a wire tie, because you can see as we rotate this around, the cables drag around and they can
I don't mind pulling them out. If the ones you don't mind, yanking them out if you want.
Well, I would just grab a wire tie.
Okay.
I mean, this is what I would normally do.
Okay.
And then that way, if you do an upgrade in the future, you don't have to go looking for these cables. I would keep them inside under the shroud.
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't have the shroud,
Right.
different story.
Yeah.
But I keep these wire ties for just such an occasion. Now, I would replace these with nylon zip ties later, but for right now, it's good enough. Before it would get delivered to a customer, I would replace the nylon zip ties with, I would replace the wire twist ties with nylon zip ties. And while I'm in here, let me go ahead and pull those front port umbilicals out. They were kind of tucked in back there. And it has a wire tie around it that I can immediately now repurpose for one of these cables here.
We're having some fun. Sorry I made you anxious, Uncle Kerry. I really dropped the ball and I feel horrible. Just horrible.
No, I feel bad just because
it's horrible. I should have.
That was completely avoidable.
I should have left everything in the box.
It didn't save us much time to move a fan around or put a power supply in. But maybe you enjoyed it. You know,
live or learn.
That was fun. I don't mind. It's just when we're live on air, not something I want to do. Like if you were just over here and we were hanging out, that's different.
Yeah.
But live on camera,
my blood pressure.
Yeah, that's.
Get the cuff. All right.
This is my fifth cuff this week. I keep blowing them out.
Yeah, my diastolic or whatever it is.
Systolic
and diastolic. All right.
All right. So once again, I'm going to rotate that around. And connector on there. Get that connector on right like that. I will say this case is very easy for me to get my hands in that top corner on the 200R.
Yeah.
Man, that was a tough cable to get on.
Yeah.
Now, we can worry about, getting that cleaned up a little bit later, but with regards to this rear fan, we have a lot of options on this board.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I still have one more power cable. I got a wire tie up here. Let's grab another. This one ought to be long enough.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and oil that one back up. Go. And cut that.
And you said we're going to install Windows 9 on this?
Windows 9.
8 with the tiles that everyone hated. Boy, did I hate those tiles. Oh, did I not like that.
Yeah, I think that most people...
I just fell in love with Windows 7. I'm sorry, but they had a media center that was great, and I just was when we were moving up to Windows 8. When I installed it, I went shnikes.
Shnikes?
Holy shnikes!
That might have actually been the word Mitch really used.
That's Tommy Boy. Yeah. Holy shnikes!
Again, I'm just trying to get through where I need the cables to go. This is a front port audio cable that's going to go in the bottom, your bottom left corner of the board. There'll be a connector for this. And a missing pin indicates if it's going with the missing pin up or down. In this case, it's up on this particular board. And that's the front port audio hooked up. The next thing we've got here, what is this? Or even from the factory, they've got these cables all interwoven, which drives me crazy. What is this? Reset switch. For all by itself for some reason. And that can come down and just go right up to the bottom of the board. It's very bizarre to me that there's just a reset switch by itself, but that goes right next to where the hard drive LED, below the power LED and power switch. In the same position on every ATX and micro ATX board in the last 20 years. It's never changed. That's why it's nice, like on the NZXT cases, you just get the one plug for reset, power switch, hard drive LED, power LED, just put one connector on. This case, Corsair is still doing it the old-fashioned way, even though the standard has been followed for years. Corsair apparently never got the message, the memo. What do we do? Just want to untangle, unweave these cables. Otherwise, I will have to unplug them and reroute them when it comes cable management time. This case looks like it's got real easy cable management. So I will give them that. Much as I pick on them, I can also praise them for what they did. I would say right, but I'd say, you know, to my preferences as a builder, some of the frustrations I have that long ago should have been resolved by manufacturers just as an excuse to buy their case because they've considered the builder, right? With NZXT, give me that one connector is a reason I will prefer NZXT versus going to this stuff. Okay, this is power switch and power LED. So do we not have a hard drive LED, or am I just not seeing it yet? Okay, power LED is going to go on those first two pins on the top row, and the power switch has no positive or negative, even though it's labeled as such, it doesn't matter. It goes right beside that on the top row. Just like every ATX and micro ATX board, going back 20 years. This is a USB 3.1 for Type-C. Does that have, oh yeah, obviously it's got Type-C.
How come it has the yellow? I'm so used to either with the USB-Cs.
It's Corsair being Corsair.
White, blue. Blue is 3.1 or 3.2, right? The white's your standard 2.0 or something like that.
Well, I think you'd have to refer to the case documentation on how Corsair has defined that, because it appears they're kind of playing by their own rules a little bit. Now, this even appears to be twisted up. Like when they put it together at the factory, they twisted up the cable.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can undo it. Well, maybe I can. Maybe it's okay. So normally what I'll do is I would grab a zip tie and I would just individually every few inches.
Right.
Because that's what this does. Not only does it make it look neater, but it also makes later when you have to fold it and cable manage it, you end up with all these giant loops and other wires get in there and it's just a mess. It's nice if they put a loom around this or some kind of sleeve. But just for the sake of being able to fire this up in the next 10 minutes, let's just get her done. What did they say in Wisconsin? Keep her moving. Gotta keep her moving. This one I know I can fit through there. You just have to bend it at a sharp angle. There it goes. So that one, this is our USB 3 for the front, the Type A's. That just plugs in right there on the board. And then going back to that Type-C connector, which I was in the middle of untangling before I got distracted by the larger USB 3 cable. That one should go through the same wiring hole here. Right about there, I would get. Well, no. Come on now, Carrie. You can do it. There it is. So I will pull through more than I need just to make sure that I have the flexibility to twist the cable one way or the other, depending on how it fits in the plug. Once that is done, then once the cable's seated correctly in the right place, we can push the slack through. But again, on these cables that are in, you know, a connector that's about this big, it's not flexible. If you bend it too far, the cable, you pull in too much and make it too tight, you'll break the connector right off. That's not a warranty issue. So there's no fixing that. Essentially, you've damaged your motherboard by trying to make it look pretty. You are intended to see some cables, and through cable management, you can just minimize that impact. Also with the smoked glass, that's going to help a lot. Perfect. Now, when it comes to these two front fans, you know, we've got some pretty short cables here for some reason.
Didn't I bring some extenders?
Well, so here's what I'm looking at. When you put the front fans in, It does look like you've got the power cables going out the top left. That's fine. They're both the same. What I would do is I wouldn't route them. What you've done here is you've routed the cables up to route them back down.
Okay.
So we're losing about that much cable going up and back down again. There's a wire management hole next to, it should be right next to each fan. So you'll see right beside this front fan, there's a hole right beside it. And now you're not having to go out of your way. Now, if these cables were longer, it probably wouldn't make a difference. But because you saw what little remnant we had, that's just a result of a cable management choice. And it's not just a matter of using the most convenient or closest hole. You've got to think about, where's the end of this cable got to run? Will it make it that far? And you know, if you use a hole that's easier to get to because it's a bigger hole, you might be routing the cable the opposite way versus using perhaps a smaller hole that's a little more difficult to feed the thread the cable through, but is in line with where the cable's already coming out, therefore giving you more slack to reach whatever your destination is. And it's just one of those considerations that comes along with building. And as you add RGB and etc., these get more and more complicated, right? Because now you've got ARGB cable, you've got a power cable, you multiply those two cables times every fan you've got, and then you got to worry about where are those cables going to fit behind the case. So again, as we add complexity, we also add cost, and we also add more points of failure, and it takes more time to build. If you're building because you're somebody who enjoys the process, like people like to put together a puzzle, there's a 5,000 piece puzzle, and you'll buy that for nothing just to put it back together, then, you know, have your fun. But if you're building to be efficient, if you're building for something you need to support, if you're building for something that you're competing with others in the marketplace, you need your prices down. These are things worth considering to speed up your build process, lower your prices, and help more customers. So this cable here that's coming out the bottom, we have a lot of slack here. The one up on top, it's running behind this piece somewhere. Oh, I guess this stuff. Oh, that's not too bad. What we can do with these now that we've got them routed this way, is run them down through the bottom here with the rest of our cables. And now this looks like there's a good chance this is going to reach. Let's look on the bottom of the board, see if we have any fan headers. I see 1, 2. I mean, this might be just exactly the right length from what I'm looking at on this side of the board. So if I start with the shortest cable and go to the fan header that's closest to that side, obviously with the shortest cable, and that would plug in right here. And if we go to the next longest cable to the next furthest fan header, again going through that same cable management hole, then that would take us, oops, let's take it right here, turn that around and plug it in right there. Perfect, perfect. Then the rear fan, that cable's so long that if we have a third fan header down here, we could actually run that all the way to the bottom. However, I am not seeing third fan header at the bottom.
That's a jip.
We have 2 more fan headers at the top. I prefer not to go to the top only because it's more visible. So, let me go a little slower here. Yeah, I don't want to use those top ones, but we do have a third one on the side.
And you gotta go here.
Yeah, we're just about at 4 o'clock. So the problem I have with using any of these fan headers up here, is that these are designed as to be water block. You know, it means 12 volts at all times. I don't want to have to go into the BIOS and change it. So what I'm thinking is maybe the two front fans, as I originally mentioned, should be on a fan splitter. Plug those two fans into one of these headers, let's just say, and then go ahead and hand me that one. This will be the rear fan.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. And then we'll plug it in.
Have you got a splitter?
Oh yeah, I've got splitters.
Yeah.
And then for the fan splitters, right over here I have some. When you go on Amazon to buy fan splitters, it can be hard to just get one. So I think when I ordered them, I ended up getting like a whole bunch. So all I need to do, and these are far longer than we need, but we're just sitting here. So let me hand that. Oh, wait a minute. That's an extension. That's not a splitter. My bad.
Okay.
That's
Never
if
mind.
The cable's too short.
John says, "Got to go carry." All right, John.
This looks like a fan splitter. I don't know why it's there. But I think we can plug that in. Like we can take the two fans we had here. Plug one in here. And where'd my other fan plug go? Fell out. One in there. And then what we can do is just shove all that back here so it's unseen. And then those two front fans can share the same fan header right like that. And you can't even tell any difference from the front. Problem solved. Again, we could have used these other three fan headers at the top, but again, the default BIOS settings worry me. So just take that off the table. It never becomes an issue. Finally, let's just boot it up and we'll leave it at that. I think we'll have to wrap it up for today. So let me grab a power cable here and our HDMI cable. Put the power supply off. HDMI is down here on the floor somewhere. HDMI. Here it is. I think there's half of it. All right, it's getting a little claustrophobic back here. Let me grab my keyboard and mouse. Thank you. Watch your step.
Yeah.
And I'll turn this on.
Smoke test, peeps.
This is it. Plug in USB. You know what? Let's plug it into one of these up front. We can check to make sure that that works. There it goes. And finally, my Windows 11 installation USB will be needed right there. We'll plug that into one of these blue USB ports back here.
Switch on.
Switch on.
Switch on.
We'll turn the power. There it goes. Fans are turning. Let's go to the output of this here on what I call camera 2. And hopefully we'll get a power on self-test. There it goes. And it should, because Mitch's NVMe drive is brand new.
Has nothing on it?
Yeah, then the only thing this can boot from is the Windows 11 installation media.
And they don't need to see that. We've done that 1,000.
Only 1,000?
1,000 times, yeah.
And we always make sure that we are not plugged into the network because I don't want to be waiting for updates to install. Choose I don't have a product key. We want Windows 11 Pro.
And away we go.
Not quite.
Yeah, okay.
Accept the license agreement, and then we pick where we want it to go.
Oh.
It should see the 4 terabyte Orico drive here.
Searching for disks.
Takes just a moment. Yeah, disk 0, you see it's just one disk 0.
Yep.
Disk 1 has 4 partitions, and that's the USB drive we plugged in with Windows on. But disk 0 is just a single instance, all unallocated.
Okay.
Everything looks good. We hit next. It's going to give us a summary of what we're going to do here. And then we approve that summary, and off to the races it goes. It's going to partition, format that drive, and copy over our Windows installation files, reboot, and begin the Windows 11 install. Then we'll put our drivers on, our Windows updates on, and then there's some cable management, and he's good to go. I mean, this system is whisper quiet. I can't hear a thing out of it. So let's go back to camera 1. I have an appointment in 10 minutes, so I have to wrap this up. However, I'm sure Mitch will stick around so we can finish this up. But essentially, I mean, that's your build, and it would have been done faster without those, you know,
hiccups with
little mistakes, but or oversights. But again, the difference between a professional and an amateur is how we handle when things go wrong. A lot of times amateurs give up, or amateurs will get out the duct taped, you know, just good enough. We don't do good enough. I don't want a surgeon or a dentist who has a good enough attitude. I don't want a mechanic close enough. If I'm paying somebody for service, I want it done by a professional. When you're working for yourself, you uphold yourself to whatever standards you want. I have no dog in that race. But I want you to understand, when you're watching me do it, every machine is done consistently the same so that I have an easier time when support issues do come up or future upgrades come up. And they will come up, at least I hope so if I want to stay in business, that I don't find myself set up for failure because I took a shortcut that now is just now coming back around to bite me. And it's just a consistent way of doing work. If you're a dentist, if you're a doctor, you should be treating patients with the same sense of care as though it were your own personal loved one, regardless of who they are, how you feel about a particular patient. Maybe you have a connection, maybe you don't. Everybody should get the same level of care and treatment. And I treat my computers that I build or repair like the same. Speaking of which, did you put screws in this?
I did. Probably didn't do those right.
These are the wrong screws?
Oh, I don't know. It came in the with the power supply.
These did not come with your power supply.
Oh.
I don't know where you got those. Those are not power supply screws. Where did those screws come from?
I could have sworn in the bag with the.
No. So everything's fine. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's
you're gonna
not
get a shock.
any harm. No.
No.
But these look like the screws that come with the case.
Oh.
You strip these screws out. These are fine thread screws.
Okay.
These don't go in there.
Okay.
In fact, these probably don't even tighten. They'll just spin and spin and spin.
Okay.
You've got the wrong type of screw in here, which, look, again, we learn by making mistakes, right? We're not doing this to embarrass you, but I just noticed it. I just made a lot of assumptions here that...
Not the ramekin again.
Yeah, I have a bag that has power supply.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sometimes I get a power supply that comes with screws, and the case comes with screws, and I don't need both. This will be in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
What's in here? We just saw it. Oh, right there. That's what should have come with your power supply.
Let me cut that open. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've taken the paint right off of these. Look at that. See the silver through.
Yeah.
So these are absolutely wrong. I'm going to just throw them. I don't know what they go to.
Chat, I'm never, ever going to build another.
Well, but you won't make these
disc.
mistakes again. Right. If anything, if you were to do it again, you'd probably nail it because you've learned, right?
Right.
If you did it and you didn't make any mistakes, how would that lesson may not stay with you? Like, it doesn't have the same sting.
Right.
It's kind of like a scar. You might forget other injuries, but the scar is always there to remind you of that injury.
Yes.
That's all right. You didn't hurt anything.
And while we're wrapping up, Chad, don't forget, your Uncle Mitch's favorite band, Toto, is touring this summer with Christopher Cross and Men at Work. So you get 3 bands, 1 show. Going to be good.
Is Men at Work still together?
Yeah, I'm going to go see them August 23rd in Las Vegas at the Fontainebleau, even though they're playing the night before here in Phoenix. just for something different. And so couldn't get front row, could only get about 7th row. So
you're tall.
But that's with the new hotel, the Fontainebleau, and my brother from Eagle said he'll come, so I got him a ticket, and so looking forward to seeing the boys again and them showing me their restraining order. So 10 feet away, Mitch. I can only clamp like this, not like this.
All right, guys, I think that'll wrap it up for today. I want to shout out a thank you to all our members and all those super chats that came in. Let me make sure. One more time, I'll give a shout out to, let's see, Frankie B, Peter V, joining us there from the Netherlands. Our friend Buster, of course. AC's Drafting, good to see you again. Thank you, Barry Klein. Thank you, Chris Dunn. And Mortant Renewed Membership, thank you for that. Ian Gooch, Davis Parsons, Alan Lindos, Mick Woods, 3D Everything Renewed Membership, our friend Buster again, and Raj D, who renewed membership. You guys rock. Without you guys, well, we wouldn't have 3/4 of the content without your support, so that we don't have to become a corporate puppet. We can remain unbiased and independent based on the values that we have and not what we're told to have. And you guys make that possible. For our members, we can't thank you enough. For our supporters, again, we can't thank you enough. And for just hanging out in our chat room, being a part of this amazing community, we can't thank you enough. That's where the real precious part of this channel is in our community. And if you're not joining us in the live chat when we're live, you are missing out on what makes this channel so different. No other channel has this community. Of course, to Mitch, thank you for sharing your build with us and the interesting challenges that you presented. I know he was just testing me.
His blood pressure. Yes,
he felt like I was getting a little. Life was getting a little too easy for me.
Yeah.
So he's trying to keep.
Thanks for tuning in, chat. You guys all have a safe and happy weekend. I can't ride my motorcycle because it's a little rainy, a little more rain, but it's supposed to blow out by Sunday, and so. And your Uncle Mitch is acting in a student film on Sunday, so look forward to having that footage.
Yeah, we'll have some more sample footage from Mitch here coming up.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much, Uncle.
Thanks, of course, to Mara for all the work she does in the background on the administrative side of things. Today's thumbnail was amazing.
I know.
And keeping up the video notes. Yeah. And also, of course, our friends at SCD Keys, the 30% off the Windows and Office keys. If you're looking to save some money, you want a guaranteed key that's going to work with 6 months of support, be sure and check them out. As I've encouraged people, some people don't listen. If you have problems, don't go shouting and screaming from rooftops. If there is a problem, which rarely ever happens, please reach out to us so that we can see you. And the comment section is not a tech support section. But reach out to us privately or join us in our message forums where we can see you and address any issues. Before screaming bloody murder, let us know there's a problem. This is so frustrating. The people who are generally having problems didn't follow the rules we gave before. Or not rules, but like if you want a good experience, follow these steps. They didn't. As a result, they've now got a problem and they immediately start publicly posting how they're a victim. And it's like, hold on a minute. This isn't the way to tell me, first of all. I don't mind helping, but I have to understand I need information privately, like, receipt numbers and stuff to prove this isn't all just a scam, and we're going to make it right. But if the steps were followed, the person wouldn't have been in that position to begin with. And now that I'm telling him the proper steps to proceed, I'll bet you he's not going to do them.
No.
It's probably a waste of my
Scout's honor.
But anyway, thank you all for hanging out with us, and our friend Buster, of course, a super shout out for his incredible kindness and friendship, and to each and every one of you. I hope you have a great, wonderful weekend. We'll see you all very, very soon. Until next time.
Bye for now.